Hello everybody and welcome to Encounter Roleplay. My name is Will and today I am back with my fantastic co-host Volonda. How's it going, Volonda?
Hi, I'm Volonda.
Hi, Volonda!
It's going great.
It's
I'm in the world of awesome today.
It's impossible for me not to say hi, Volonda. It's been just,
you never,
ground
you
into
also
me.
never say that. You're like, hi, Yunola.
Yeah.
YOLO, damn it.
It's all the same. It's all the same.
Yeah.
But fantastic. We have a fantastic guest with us today, Mr. Scott Brown. How's it going, Scott?
Howdy, all you kids out there in Radio Land.
How you doing, man? Good. So, Scott, where might have we seen you? Where might we know you from on the realms of the internet?
Yes, around the inner butts. I'm known as @GOWTF on Twitter and most other social platforms. I podcast with the RPG Academy, where we've had a few years of audio podcasts. We have a pretty good backlog, talk shows, actual plays, the whole gamut. And we're new into the Twitch streaming space, so I'm helping run the Twitch streaming on our side. We just run a couple of shows a week, but they're pretty fun. One's a police procedural, come on down. It's called Lawful and Orderly Special Visions Unit.
Nice.
Very exciting.
Nice. Fantastic. So, and Volonda, you're well. Everything's good with you. You're excited by the new episode of Adventures Anonymous going out tomorrow?
So excited for tomorrow. So excited for tomorrow.
I'm hyped. So yeah, let's move on to our discussions for today. So we figured we'd do a bit of a round table here on Table Talk today and chat a little bit about beginner dungeon mastering basics. Now, earlier today, myself and Philip Fallon, we were chatting about how to write our first campaign, some story writing tips. But what we didn't talk about was the actual practical application of dungeon mastering. How does one do a dungeon master? And all the things that go into that. It's a huge melting pot of discussion. I'm sure we've all got plenty of opinions on the matter, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So we'll start off with my co-host Volonda for today, and then we'll fire some questions over to Scott as well. So Volonda, talk to me. You're a new dungeon master. You've never DM'd before. You've heard about this whole thing called Dungeons and Dragons, and you're interested in playing your first session. You've got a campaign. You've thought of some ideas about writing it. But you've got to come to the table and actually do it. How does one actually do a dungeon master? That is, wait.
How does one master a dungeon?
Indeed. How does, yes.
Or how does one do an RPG?
Yes. How does one tabletop RPG?
How does one do an TTRPG?
How does one top the table?
Yes. Exactly.
If you were anything like me, I played off and on for a little bit, like a character here and there, nothing what I'd include a real role playing, just like random one shots.
Mm-hmm.
If you're anything like me, you had your notes in front of you, you were trembling like a leaf, you were terrified, you had all these character names down there, you had basically a script, what was going to happen, and maybe some offshoots if you were feeling like really brave that they might
Spicy.
make a decision.
Yeah. And
then you just crap yourself the moment you sit down like, hi, I know you know me, let's talk in funny voices and make you do things. Yeah.
Let's pretend to be elves tonight. Yes.
Yes, today I'm going to be an elf or a gnome. And then about 5 minutes in, you have realised that you're not actually playing you. That's probably the one thing that you need to remember if you're DMing and you hit the nerves hard, as I did that very first night I started DMing. You have to remember it's not you. You're playing a role. So play the role of a dungeon master. And the dungeon master is someone who is calm, who vaguely knows what's going on and is prepared for anything, or at least I say prepared for anything, gives the illusion of being prepared for everything.
Yes.
That's important because nobody, like an actor going on a stage, you know, the audience, unless they've studied the play, don't know what your lines are. So as long as you can go on there with the air of confidence and continue, you're going to be okay because they don't know what is written down. So yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. The idea of being on a stage and performing, and no one actually knows what the lines are except from you. And I've spoken to a lot of dungeon masters and mistresses as well, who will say, even the most fantastic dungeon masters that I've played with, I've got no idea what's going on. I'm like, what? But you just did. What? Scott, how does that happen? How do you pretend that you know everything that's going on and yet and they give this illusion that you're, you know, calm and control, whereas underneath there, we all know everyone's like, fuck.
I think it's just improv, right? It's confidence. You project that to your players. I mean, they're already your friends. You already know them. One of the very first time I ever DM'd beforehand, I asked a good friend of mine to sit down and just do like a 20-minute thing, right? And just the two of us kind of get practiced. And the moment for me, the realization that I actually would be respected as the dungeon master, right, rather than as just another player, was when I asked for that very first die roll. And I was, I was kind of that initial like 2 seconds panic, and I was like, oh, let me see some dice, right? And then a die roll, and I just decided something that happened based on that because I didn't know what I was having them roll on at the time, right? And that was such a good confidence booster, that little teeny moment that like I asked for a die roll and they rolled the dice, like. This game's going to work. That's all I needed. That's the structure of the game. I asked for a die roll. They roll the dice. We figure out what happens. That's all I need.
Right, yeah. And I think, Polar Princess is saying this in chat now, and I hear it a lot from people. Everyone's afraid of screwing it up. Everyone's afraid of what the first thing you say is just going to, like, you're going to spill out, and it's like you have that nightmare where you come to school where you're not wearing any trousers. It's that kind of moment where it's like, oh, God, no, everyone's going to think I'm an idiot. And that I think just comes down to a confidence thing, right? But are there any tools that you can bring to that first session to try and combat that, you know, awkwardness, that nervousness, that fear element, or anything that you do personally? I know for myself, something that I do that helps me with confidence is to like make some detailed notes and to make like 3 bullet points of things that I meant to do. And when I've done that, it's like, okay, I've done the thing that I meant to do. If I come to a table without that, with a new group, and I'll be like, oh God, I'm really nervous. Is there any tools like that you guys find? You guys are like,
excellent question.
I'm still terrified.
I mean, yeah, no, it's a tough one, right? There's so many tools that I've heard different people do, like imagine people naked, right? Practice, right? Or impromptu public speeches. I had a friend who was deathly afraid of public speeches, and so he started doing them on the bus, loudly on the way to work, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah, because if you can give your talk that you're going to give at work to the random bus full of strangers, then you can deliver it at work, right?
Yeah.
So I think anything that where you can practice being afraid and then proving to yourself that fear was unjustified, just exercising that. I think anything you can do for to exercise that muscle is good for you.
Right, yeah. It's a bit like I found personally with a bunch of different situations, the only way that I can find my if I constantly throw myself into uncomfortable situations, it's the only way that those uncomfortable situations then become comfortable because you become used to them.
100%.
It's like becoming familiar, like as a kid, like for example, if like you were always going to, this is it, when you always went to school and then you had to change to a different one.
Okay.
It's like you hated doing it. You didn't want to go to the new school because you knew everything before, and that was like going to new school is really scary. It's a bunch of new people, bunch of new teachers. You don't know how it goes, and you just always want to go back to your old school. But you find that if you're there for like a week, because you've done it for a week, because you keep doing it, because you have no gosh darn choice, you become used to it, and it becomes a lot more comfortable to do, I guess.
Indoctrination. I like it.
Indoctrination. I mean what you're saying about, you know, if your friend there on the bus, it's like, if you keep throwing yourself into situations where you go, the worst I can do is fail, and people look at me like a freak. That's not always a bad thing, let's be honest.
I think you're right. And I think that is, you know, a part of attempting things is accepting the failure which will inevitably come. And you know, I've been DMing for 10 years. Every session I make mistakes. And I feel like, you know, I eventually make less of the mistakes that I used to make, but it's a very slow process. I'm very stupid. I continue to do, you know, dumb things, and you're like, why did I do that? And then the next time you try not to do that thing. And I think for a beginner, that's difficult because as a more experienced dungeon master, I accept the fact that I'm going to screw up quite easily. You know, it's you know, it's everyone expects it of me. You know, oh yeah, we'll fuck that up again. But but when you're new, it's like you really don't want that to be the expectation that people have. They're going to screw things up, because I think there's this you know, image of a dungeon master where they don't get things wrong. They know everything. You know, you watch Critical Role and you think, oh wow, you know, Matthew Mercer's fantastic. You know, we've spoken to Matt about that very topic, in fact. But yeah, that kind of initial fear of getting things wrong, I think you just have to accept and just embrace, just run with it, you know, and be like, I'm going to screw this up, and it's going to be fun.
You know, I've before made that a goal, like a checkbox, like I'm going to screw up, and then the first time you screw up in the game, you're like, check that off, done. I got that done this session, right? Right.
Yeah, it's like with the screwing up thing is I've been dungeon mashing for a while, and I very much enjoy it. I still get nervous every single time I open my mouth to try and say I'll do anything, but I just keep powering through it, and I have a lot of fun doing it. But on the Friday game that I ran, I could not get anyone's character names right. I was looking at one guy, the guy that was sitting next to me. I know his real name, I know his handle tag, I know his character name. I looked at the guy on the other end of the table and was calling that guy straight to his face. This other guy's player character, I just could not get it right. And the entire game I kept fucking up every
Welcome to
single
my
game,
world.
but yeah, more difficult for you, I can imagine. But just it was the fact that it was okay at the end. They took the piss, as was rightly true. I mean, my friend Roger was playing in the game, so that was inevitable. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, you're all there to have a laugh, and if you've got a good set of players around you, it's not just you, it's them as well that's building this world.
Sure.
So you definitely want to lean on and work with them. And at the end of the day, everyone's going to fuck up. I fucked up cool names. They fuck up what they're supposed to be rolling.
Right.
They never have any memory of what's going on. There's that all the time. So as soon as you accept that this group is not all just on you,
right,
you're probably going to be okay. So
yeah. How important do you think it is, Scott, to get along with the people at the table when it comes to D&D?
I think 100% important. I think that's maybe the most important thing. I really think that D&D is really just, maybe I've noticed, and maybe this is just a personal experience, I've noticed that the gaming is often just an excuse for prolonged social time, right? You want to sit around and chat for 4 hours, but you can't really justify sitting around chatting for 4 hours. Like, if we drink beer, we're going to get slammed, right? If we eat, we're going to get way too full. What else can we occupy 4 hours of just talking? And Dungeons & Dragons does that really well. So, like, all tabletop role-playing games are a great conversation piece. And so I feel like, that's kind of criteria number 0 for me is, are these people I'd like to sit around and chat with for 4 hours? Right. Then yeah, let's play the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just an excuse to hang out and play with people. And, it's just like when you do any other social activity or a group activity, the more you do it, the more you get, the friendlier that you become, the stronger the bonds that are formed. Is I guess it's much akin to I don't know if you've done a lot of like stage acting or anything, but it's the feeling that you get as a cast when you bond.
Right. Yeah.
It's that kind of like idea that you will always have that friendship because you've always gone on and done that, and that's exactly what D&D is for me, because you are cast without lines, and that's exactly what that is, and that bonding process is incredible. And I don't want to it sounds horrible, but I don't want to bond with someone who's a complete jackass, so I don't want them sitting at the table with me. So
Interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. I think you're right. I think getting all of the people is essential, and that communication aspect with Dungeons and Dragons is where it all centers from. And we've talked about this plenty of times about how important communication is between you and your players, and the players and each other. So something that comes into that quite a bit is Session Zero. So for new Dungeon Masters, that might be a term which isn't well explained or well understood, I guess. I don't know how much they talk about that in actually the Player's Handbook. But it's a phrase I hear thrown around quite a lot. So I guess we've talked a little bit about what a Session Zero is and how important that is to our game, because I think that's where the communication can really start from. So Scott, do you do Session Zeros?
I have in the past. I really... my definition of the term, right? Many people mean it to mean like a concrete, dedicated, regular session block, right? And I generally try to fuzz that out, right? I include under my term of Session Zero, like the 3 hours that I spend ahead of time, like emailing backstory back and forth between the players who bothered to write backstory, and asking people, recruiting people, like talking about the game. It doesn't have to be in a group; it can be kind of individually, one-on-one. But it's kind of the general onboarding process of giving everyone into the same headspace, right? Okay. Getting everyone to get buy-in to the game and what it's all about. And so I'm certainly a believer, but I don't know that I prefer a soft definition to it that it happens before and after that first session. But yes, I'm a fan. I think it's very impactful.
Interesting, Valanda. How do you take Session Zero to mean? I guess.
Well, initially our group never did a Session Zero. And the games in which we have done even a very basic one, they tell. The games are much more improved. People say willing to buy into it. Their character backstories are more in depth. I mean, when I've done actual proper Session Zeros, where I've gone, okay, let's roll it back. Let's show people how to do a full-on Session Zero. It includes who's bringing the snacks, what time you're turning up, respect one another, all those social conventions that people sometimes bypass. And if you don't have those sometimes said, that can be a problem. Mainly gear that more towards a completely new group. if you're dealing with people that you've been played with for 10 years, you don't need to sit down and go, you're bringing the snacks every time you start a session 0, because that's just stupid. But the other eyes, it's kind of like, it's going through saying, okay, this is an idea for a campaign. Are you willing to come play cool? What do you want to do? You know, just going through with each person what they want to get out of that experience. And when we've done that as a session 0, we found that the games have been much more improved. People are more into it, especially if we do the whole backstory thing. I mean, to be fair, getting some people to sit down and write backstory is we know those players. We know those players who will write 1,500 words, and those people who will not write a thing. So we found that actually just sitting down and doing that, I mean, to be fair, it's because our group is full of dyslexics, and they find it very difficult to write that. So we have that verbal discussion beforehand of backstories. It's definitely something people should at least spend a small amount of time covering, at least.
Well, plus I think the process of doing backstory together, right? You get a lot more cross-seeding of ideas, right? You have a lot more germination, and then that establishes, I think, an important. The times that I've done an explicit session 0 where we're discussing the universe and the characters, the whole idea, the biggest change I've noticed is that people have ownership of the world and of their characters and each other's characters more than they otherwise would, right? Rather than just being a sheet with rules, they're not a victim of what's happening, right? They're an active, engaged, well, I think this is the saloon, right, that we met in 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Having those cross bonds between characters, actually, you saying that reminded me. It's like that we try and now not exactly force him, but as we're doing our backstories, we try and my character, I thought I could do this, so I could slot it in here. That means you already have a group dynamic, and that's really good, because quite often it's like we met in a bar and went adventuring. It's like that doesn't necessarily promote group harmony. And if you have people who already have pre-existing even a tenuous link, is a really good way to get your group to bond together. And we try and do that quite often now, because otherwise it's like, why would my character be here with you assholes? They wouldn't. I'm off.
Right.
So
that's actually the first.
A party full of moody loners.
Yeah.
A party full of outcasts and hermits. It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah, that's the first question I always ask the players to fill for their characters. Why are you traveling with a group? What makes this group dynamic important to you? Do you have friends in here? Is it just necessity? Whatever it is, because otherwise the whole group dynamic isn't going to work. I go off on my own. Well, I go off on my own too.
Oh, dangerous.
But again, of course, sometimes that depends on the kind of game you're running. If your character wants to develop those, and they've been the hermit, like I've fed up being a hermit, or I've been on the run for however long, or I just need some gosh darn company. That's interesting sometimes to see how that develops. But I think you have to all be aware that that's where they're heading with their character, and trying to help push that together.
Yeah. Again, it's a great thing with buy-in, right? Of people like, oh, this is going to be a game where we evolve a lot as human beings, rather than we're all going to be these stoic loners, and the fun of the game is going to be through the action, right? You pick what kind of game you want to play.
Bonding through battle,
absolutely. And I think for dungeon masters like myself, it's quite interesting to see you as characters, people as characters, rather than just archetypes as characters. And the the Drists of the world all partying together and hanging out. But I mean, that's something, again, you can talk about at session 0. What kind of game do we want to play? As a dungeon master, this is the kind of game that I want to play. As the players, how can I incorporate your feedback to create a good mix of games? So, I'm a kind of dungeon master that doesn't like to use a lot of maps. I had a couple of players come to me, like a year ago or so, and they're like, we really, really enjoy using maps. Is that something you can do? I'm like, hell yeah, I can do a couple of maps, And that's something that we established before the game, so that they got the maximum enjoyment out of it, and I got to enjoy doing a different part of that as well. How important is setting those expectations at session 0 about what the game is going to be as well? Because I feel like sometimes you don't talk about it, and then one side or another ends up feeling like they've been shortchanged almost.
It's that everyone has a tacit understanding of what D&D is, and what that tacit understanding is based off. I mean, now in the age of YouTube and streaming, it's a little bit easier, right? Maybe people are speaking a good vocabulary, but I've traveled before to a new city and just signed up to a random D&D game full of people, and they played very different D&D than my group did at home, right? It was night and day, right? Like what? Did you guys read the same rule book? Because this is so much different. And so establishing that social contract, explicitly establishing that social contract, right? It's like when you just travel abroad, right? And how there's a different unstated social contract to like the gym locker room in different cultures abroad. right? Like,
I've
in
seen no
Japan,
difference.
it's not appropriate to actually be nude. You know, you like bring a little hand towel and you hang it in front of your junk as a courtesy to everyone else, right?
Sure.
And boy, I'd feel really silly if I didn't know that ahead of time. So
Yeah,
I got the
that
same idea.
explains a lot about my series of arrests in.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, your booking register is
Yeah.
really terrible. But
Never
yeah,
thought.
I think, I mean, even if 80-90% of it feels like review, that 10% that people didn't get, right? There's a reason that all teachers start out with class 0, where they just go through the syllabus and tell you where tests are going to be and what are the expectations. It's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
also it helps you. For example, if you're looking to run a game where it's about your characters, then you kind of need to set that up beforehand, because they know that you're going to go, well, we have 3 days downtime. What are you doing? Because quite often I've completely threw a group the other day by doing that. I'd already said that this is the sort of thing that's going on. I was like, we have 3 days downtime. When are you going to do? Like, I haven't really thought about that. I was like, okay, well, what would your characters do for 3 days downtime? And it ended up being like completely offhand. 2 of them went to a bar, and it was great. It was hilarious. But setting that stuff up beforehand, it helps you DM, because it knows what sort of thing you need to prep, and also if they're doing inter-party relationships, you can do a little bit less prep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, let them do
Top
some
tip.
of the work.
Yeah, top tip. And then also, if you're going to take it very seriously, or if it's going to be completely off the cuff, like do random things, it's totally fine. Or if you're going to be sticking exclusively to a narrative, or it's going to be very dark or very light or very heavy,
Tone.
it's really important to have that beforehand, for sure.
Yeah, if you're gonna play slapstick like Dangerous Dan McGrew, bare fist fighter extraordinaire, right? And somebody
Yeah.
else is actually playing gritty like horror, right? You need to work that out.
Yeah,
Yeah, if
It
you're on
helps
different
you
pages.
especially if you're a DM, because it helps you prep and set the tone. Because almost all the tone will come from a portion of the tone will come from the GM and how you describe and set things up. So having that prepped beforehand, so they know what they're coming into, they don't suddenly throw an offhanded joke in there if you're trying to set a very serious tone. It can be really off-putting, but it also helps you to prep massively. So it's good to
Yeah.
have that before you start.
I found that to be particularly important when I'm running more serious games or horror games, for instance. Sometimes I find that it doesn't necessarily need to be said. If we're all playing D&D, then oftentimes it's just we're all going to have a good time and stupid comments are going to be made. But sometimes, including myself making them, but sometimes when it is that kind of like horror aspect or more gritty game that I'm wanting to run, I'll say, listen, let's get all the jokes out of the way now, and now we're in serious mode. And, you put on your cowl and you get out your longsword and you behead them if they don't. But, that's the... The kind of tool that can be quite helpful in just saying, all right, now we're in the zone, and now we're out of the zone. In fact, Sydney and her old group used to do a thing where they put their hands on their heads if they were out of character.
Interesting.
And when they're in character, the hand goes down. So if you want to say something out of character, you raise your hand to everyone else. Yeah. So that
Actually,
would cool.
we have something similar for our group.
Really?
we use cucumber, because it's a word you don't commonly use when you roleplay.
We use no. When you say
you
we
do
You guys
use
have a
cucumber,
safety word.
yes.
You have a safety word for out of character.
It's the safety word for out of character, not a safety word. Not like, this is triggering me because my group don't tend to do that.
Right.
We're happy to go where it goes, and if someone's feeling uncomfortable, we just say. But yeah, we tend to start, because we were always saying things out of character. We're like, okay, this time, if you're going to say something out of character, preface it with cucumber, and then the entire group is out in cucumber, and then you say, right, I rescind my cucumber, and then you start playing again.
I
So,
rescind my cucumber.
yes,
I love it.
we've had amazing inserting cucumbers, rescinding cucumbers.
Mhm.
It's been all manner of
Extracting.
all manner of, yes, all manner of implementation. But yeah, we use something very similar. We use cucumber.
That's interesting. Well, if you told me, can I come play D&D? Yeah, we use cucumber. What?
Yeah, we
I'd
use
been
the
worried.
cucumber method.
Yeah, we use the classic cucumber method for Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, fantastic, man. Tracy just followed. What a big deal. How's it going, buddy? That old name change there. Fantastic. So yeah, we talk a little bit about that, a little bit about those confidence issues that a lot of people have with D&D, and a little bit about that session 0. So actually coming to the table, are there any good kind of base, house rules, I guess, or just kind of base marks to set for, okay guys, we're playing, now what we're playing, we don't X. For instance, one I always say is we don't use phones whilst we're playing at the table.
Yeah.
Is there anything that, if you're a beginner, you might not know that could come in handy down the line?
I think that's rough to suggest, just because so many more games that I hear about these days are starting up online than in person.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Yeah.
so much easier to find players. That like relying on physical gestures and having expectations about electronic device use is really rough. I think if you're lucky enough to have in-person players, if you just get your friends and mates and convince them to do this instead of go out and play basketball or whatever, then yeah, certainly limiting digital distractions is not a bad idea. However, again, especially if it's your first session, I don't know if I might feel comfortable or encourage you to talk to anybody you think would be an issue beforehand, right? But if I wouldn't spend a lot of time listing out explicit rules before you start, so much as I would empower yourself to talk to people if you think that their behavior, whatever it is being disruptive to everybody having fun.
Okay, so how would you go about that conversation then if you're the anticipatory problem player?
That's a tough one, because especially if you have that friend group, there's always that person who didn't want to do this and really would prefer playing basketball or whatever, and drags along. I don't know. I've had bits and ups and downs, and I think a lot of that really is not about D&D. A lot of that's just about how can you have an honest conversation with your friend, right? Can you tell your friend that her hair looks terrible in the back?
Right.
Or do you just bite your tongue and you're not that good of a friend, right? Is that honestly what you do?
We have a fairly blunt approach to talking to one another in our group. It always has been since sort of we've started gaming together, and even before we were at school, we were always fairly blunt, fairly obvious. Telling someone they had a bad hairdo was the highlight of your day, so we never really had that much of an issue on that. But yeah, we've had a couple of new bloods come in, and getting them to adjust has been difficult, but we've also adjusted around them because it's no longer this is our group and you're being brought into it. It's like it's now a different group because you're here. So we've all adjusted and go around that. But dealing with potentially, I tend to set them on the mental path. So if they're potentially like, but they're a good role player, so why don't you talk to them about doing this and help them through it, because then it stops them being disrupted by giving them something to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and that can help teach the other player as well, who's teaching them how to DM as well. So when you're tired of playing, you can hand over them. That's always a useful tool. Yeah, I think that's difficult as well. What you mentioned there about being a pre-existing group and allowing other people in. It's difficult, I think, not to be exclusive in a way. It's difficult to include people sometimes when you're like a long-standing group and you're the new guy joining in. I can definitely feel like I'm definitely the new guy here, and I don't get any of the in jokes and know the people. That can be difficult. I don't know what to say. Advice for that, actually, if you're a new player or someone joining in, just try and hang out with those people, I guess.
I've always found that if you're trying to fit into a new group and they're laughing at something you don't get, just get them to explain it, because when it comes up again, you can go, oh yeah, I remember you telling me about that time, and it gives you something else to go into. But yeah, fitting into a new group is always difficult, but if they're to the point where they are really excluding you, probably not the group you want to be in. But the longer you play with them, but the more like in jokes you'll get yourself. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the group mind is always the center of gravity of the group itself, right? By you joining, you will pull the group slowly but steadily closer to you as a human being too, right? So they'll be enriched, and if they're not quite the group for you on session 1, but they're not alienating or too far out, by session 6, the center of gravity may have shifted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think players do definitely develop over time as well. So, people can be taught.
You learn a lot from having a new player in your group.
Yeah.
You learn so much. I mean, we had a core group of about 6 of us, and then we had two new people come in. One's now my best friend, one's one girlfriend of an existing friend. And how much our group has changed because of them being here. It was obviously very difficult when one of them came in. It's like, not really sure why you're here. She's not sure why she's here. And after a while, our group has just evolved and changed. But I've learned a lot from her. I've learned a lot about new players from her, because it wasn't her first love. It wasn't something she was very interested in. Now she adores it and loves it. So I've learned a lot from her about how to handle new players, what kind of things I should look for when I'm role playing, when I'm trying to be a better role player, when I'm trying to be a better DM. So you can only ever learn things from people joining your group. Even if they're crap and you have to boot them out the next day, you will always learn something from new people coming in. And it's very difficult at the moment to get players who are physically turning up at tables, mostly online and stuff like that. But if you get people to turn up, then it's amazing. You should always encourage new people to play the game, because it can only mean good things for us.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Problem players can definitely be a difficult one, but hopefully your first few sessions won't be riddled with the STDs of Dungeons and Dragons problem players, or STIs as it is nowadays, right? This should be some great acronym. But yeah, let's see. As a new player, where can you find inspiration from for backstories? What your character looks like? Interesting. Just steal shit. That's what I do. Actually, I tweeted earlier this morning. I was saying I ran into quite a roadblock with D&D maybe like a few months ago in terms of inspiration for DMing. I was like, man, I really don't feel creative right now. I feel like all my characters are just things I've done before, or my story ideas, or that's just the same thing I did before. And so I ended up going to read a bunch of Lovecraft and a bunch of horror, different genre to like the usual fantasy stuff that I was really used to, and that really helped. And it totally sparks up a whole nother candle of illumination and inspiration in my mind. I was like, fuck yeah, let's do tentacles, let's do all sorts of different horror aspects in the games that I haven't been doing before.
Was it about 8 episodes ago, Will?
Oh my god, I don't remember when we recorded, but quite possibly. But Lovecraft is definitely a much bigger influence than he ever was on my DMing stuff since the past couple of months, and that's been fantastic for me.
I think what you're saying about like it's kind of like a mixture between burnout and creative burnout.
Yeah.
Because as a DM, you burn it, you think, oh my god, I've actually had enough. I just want to play for a bit. But sometimes you creatively hit that roadblock, and I think a lot of artists and content producers will always hit that because you would think, I'm just recycling.
Yeah.
What the hell am I doing? But I don't know who it is, and that's really annoying. It's really bugging me. I know there's a recording artist, and they were saying, they recorded an album.
It's Kanye West.
Someone went, are you now going to are you now going to go record another one? It's like, no, dude, I'm going to take like a year off and go live life because I'm not going to get anything new unless I go out and do anything new. So,
right.
Reading new things, trying new things, even if you go, hey, I've never had sushi before, I'm going to go down and try that. You can go down there and get so much from the people sitting down there and the way things work, and completely change your output. So always, if you're running out of inspiration, always go grab stuff from something else, because yes, it's recycling and redoing and stuff, but that's essentially all the world is. It's new experiences, and you're just retelling them. We're storytellers, is what we do.
Yeah,
It's not a problem to do that. Just try not to drastically rip off Driz, and then you'll be fine.
If I had a nickel for every time I've played with Legolas in a game.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Another good source of if you're just looking for images of what characters look like, go on Pinterest and just go through them, just search in fantasy, and there's just a million different characters come up. And plenty of my campaigns, I'll probably find an image or two for you here, have been inspired by like an image. There was an image somewhere on my hard drive, and it's of like a battle of undead ghosts fighting against each other eternally, and they've been fighting there so long that they actually turned into ghosts. And I thought, that's a fantastic idea for a campaign. And then boom, that image from there, I found on Pinterest, just kicked it off from there. So inspiration can come in all weird sorts of forms. You might have a dream, you might have that might be a bit much to hope for having dreams, but you'll be granted a vision tonight.
If you're in one of those like really awkward places, like your parents' law or something, and you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on, you're bored, you're not really paying attention, look at the ornaments, because the ornaments will always tell a story. Don't ask the story, make it up and look at it and go, okay, well there's a like a figurine of an elephant sitting over there. Well the elephant doesn't have a tusk. Wonder what that story is, and that could be a great inspiration. Just if anywhere you are, just look around. If you see some small object, think of that, and that's actually managed to kickstart one of my biggest campaigns. Not the elephant thing, but a very similar story. So.
The Elephant Man.
The Elephant Man. No, not quite.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, whenever you're creatively blocked up or whatever it is, just go do something else. For me, it's, going and hitting a guitar for 10 minutes. I'm like, I feel better now, because you put a lot of pressure on yourself, I think, when it comes to writing new stuff. You're like, I've got to think of new ideas. I've got to do this. I've got to write a new character.
It has to be the best.
It has to be the best one I've ever done, Yeah, and that's not how I find myself, like, my best creations come about. If I sit down and I'm like, I am going to write a campaign, then it's like, nothing happens. But when I'm like, I've just had an idea while I'm walking around, and scurry down a note or whatever, that tends to work quite well for me. Interesting. Arborhawk says, do you think the use of images hinders your ability of description? Is it a bit of a crutch using images? No, personally I don't.
That's a good question. That's a very full question. I think it can be, but I don't think it necessarily is. I think that one of the greatest things about this medium of play, this game, right, is that it's so free of images. It's so much in the imagination, and so using a few images as kernels to start that off. And I will admit, one of my favorite things about 5th edition is the art. I think the art style is incredible. I think it's really fair. I think that it's really engaging. They have a really consistent style throughout, despite a lot of good artists. I think art can really inspire and can really transport you to a new place. But I don't think, like relative to many other media you'd play, that we are over inundated by art or crippled by it.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's like it's not like a video game where the art is the only thing that you can see, right? It's not the only representations that you're getting. For me, art really, really helps me to think of descriptions, actually. So it's kind of the opposite for me. It's not like I'm describing the painting, but I'm like, oh yes, this thing might be there. And creation is all about stealing other creative people's creative ideas. So steal stuff from artwork and use it. But yeah, if every image you're doing is this is the picture, then there's no need to describe it, right? But I've only ever found images to be quite powerful in role-playing games for me.
Well, I'd say the picture thing is like, I've got a DM in our group who is very good at story. He's spot on amazing with characters. He's really good at putting all the narrative together. But his ability to describe things on the fly is pretty poor, basically. And he freely admits this himself. He finds it very difficult to go. And they have red hair, blonde hair, 4 eyes, 5, I don't know. So he'll just pull out an image. And that works for us. I mean, that works for him as a DM. And it allows us to continue flowing through the story without ripping the crap out of him that he can't decide whether it's blonde hair or red hair, that sort of thing. That's kind of like a now long-standing joke between us. And well, I say joke, I don't know how well he takes it. But it's not just I don't care.
And if we don't mind the segue, I love that as an idea or a kernel of thought for new DMs, is to suggest that if you really I think an easy thing to get caught up on is being really, really worried about one thing you're bad at or you think you're bad at. And if you can find a crutch or just a way to skip past that to move on to the rest of the game, I think it does a great service to you and your players.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I was garbage at coming up with names to the point where the second big group that I ran, they got me a laser etched glass with the word John on it, right? Steve. The name Steve on it, because I used Steve for every NPC they ran into. It's like the name I came up with. And at some point, I would just print out a list of 10 random names and cross them off as I used them each session, right?
Yeah.
That way they sound good, they're fine. It takes me zero effort. It doesn't ruin the suspension for them. And they stop dismissing anyone they meet named Steve because, that's not an important NPC.
Right.
Yeah, that's quite a common thing. A couple of our guys in our group do exactly the same, because sometimes it's fancy names really throw them, so they just print a load out and be done with it. It allows them just to go and move on, because at the end of the day, it's a story. It's not necessarily the description of this or it's that. I mean, no one's going to go, hey, do you remember that amazing temple that had like ivy clinging to the walls as if it was suffocating the life from the stone? No, they're going to remember going there and blasting something with a sword. So that's the thing they're going to take away from it. But
yeah, it's interesting. I used to think I was quite good at describing things, and then and then I played a game with Ben Counter as the DM. Now he's the author of a bunch of Warhammer 40k novels. He's a writer, and I'm like, well, how does he know these pretty words that are coming out of his mouth, and why don't they ever come out of mine? And I was like, man, I've got to step up my game. I got to think about describing things more pretty. And so I found as a DM, I'm always trying to improve myself in different little aspects. Red's played in some of Ben's game as well, and that's something I've taken away from him as being like, wow, I felt like I was good, but now I am definitely a beginner at this, at describing things, not on par. We had a question in from let's see, oh god, it was Say Batch. What do you do for your campaign when you don't have backstories from your PC? So you haven't got backstories from your player characters. How do you do that? How does that work? Guess you just guess.
I think you just make a game that's all about the future. You don't look to the past, right? You transport them into a new environment where their background doesn't necessarily matter, or you have them being imperiled by external events that are so large that it sweeps everyone out from under them. That it doesn't matter that the small village you came from had a draconic idol that was stolen 3 years ago by some subverient troll, and that you need to chase them under a bridge or something. When there's a global cataclysm that's going to wipe out all life on this world, right? So yeah, I think if you have no player backstory from your players, it's a really good sign that they don't want to play a game that involves the background of their characters.
Yeah. It's a good thing to listen to. If they're all like, you are, say, playing, you've decided as a group that you're going to, play this like world-changing event, and your people are going to be a part of this, then the idea that you grew up as a blacksmith apprentice and got thrown out for sleeping with the mayor's daughter or something, it's kind of not really relevant to the rest of the story. It's interesting to know, but not necessarily relevant. And quite often it allows them to do backstory on the fly as well. I mean, we sometimes do the thing of, I know that guy, and we allow ourselves like one of those, like per like really a long set of sessions, unless the person is very charismatic. It tends to be, it's like, hey, I know that guy, and then you can build your backstory.
That's interesting.
So.
Yeah, or get advantage on a roll by justifying making something up about your backstory that's plausibly true that justifies you having advantage. Everyone gets like a little vignette of your background.
Yeah, it's also really interesting sometimes to play those little things. It's like, okay, you want advantage, right? You're going to earn this one, so you get them to go through that. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we don't.
You want advantage from me, boy?
Yeah, getting advantage from some DMs is such taskmaster will.
Inspiration is too easily given by weak DMs.
Weak DMs. I understand.
So time sure flies. Yes, I don't find many people who can answer this, but I'm using several White Wolf universe games. What's a good way to balance the different groups out? I am one of those people who can't answer that question. I don't know. We might have two others here as well.
Several White Wolf universe games. So you're playing like a Vampire the Masquerade character, along with like a hunter's like werewolf character, along with maybe like something from some celestial system. Maybe I'm not familiar enough with enough of White Wolf's backlog.
Yeah, no, right.
It's something my group has played, but I've never played myself, so I kind of have no idea where you're coming from on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, general questions are good. Specific questions are always difficult. I always feel like I disappoint people.
I saw a question back there, because if that was the latest one, someone's mentioning about character voices.
Yeah, struggling with character voices. That's all. Yeah. How do you do character voices?
Damn!
Do you even?
I was going to ask.
Do you even need to?
I think I'm in terms of knowing your weaknesses as a DM, I'm good at character voices for about 2 minutes, and then it just fades off into a different accent, right? And then if they meet the character again, it's going to be a very different accent. And so I've learned that I only do voices for NPCs that I think the interaction is going to be really short with. Like a city guard, right? City guard named Steve. He gets a ridiculous voice. But otherwise, the regular NPCs, probably not, because it's going to break all the players' immersion if it's not a consistent voice every time.
Yeah, because even if you don't remember, they sure will.
Yeah.
Also, one key piece of advice from having done it: don't fall into the accent trap. Unless you know the accent very well, don't do it. Just don't do the accent trap. You will fall into it, and then you'll go somewhere else, and you'll spend a lot of time probably more giggling about the accent of that crazy ass town cast than you ever did of like the character that they're intended to do. So yeah, unless you're definitely sure about accents, don't go that. But you can change your voices in different manner. I mean, it may not necessarily be like, "Hi, I'm this and da 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 da." You can change your voice in the way that you speak. You can be very slow, very expression. You can use far more eloquent words, but in a far more vibrant manner. I mean, it can be about your characteristics, your body language. There's more than just changing a voice to doing a character. And if you're terrible at doing your voices, then perhaps you might want to look at doing something with your hands, with your arms, the way that you sit, the way that you move. I mean, I have glasses, so whenever I play someone who's very intelligent or, a crafter, I move them down. It's like, yes, how can I help you, my dear? It's there's lots of things that you can do, little props. I mean, if you're not good at character voices, stick with what you're good at. And if you can do body languages, that's a great way to do it. The way that they speak, that's the way to do it. vocabulary as a way to do it.
Yeah, I think subtle props like that, you're absolutely right, are a really use. You know, I'll do like, you know, one eye stuff and
Squint.
and then when you're already doing the prop, one of the great things I've learned, one of the additional benefits of a small prop or a small eye thing is that you stay in character while they're having an out of character conversation or while they're having a side conversation about what if they should trust this person, right? And so you just pretend like you heard that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And keep it in character. It's a fun addition to the to scenes, I think, to keep that in character and encourages players to do the same. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. You know, something like 70% of all that we hear from people, all that we understand in conversation is via body language and non-verbal communication. So actually you pick up a lot from people without them actually saying anything.
Yeah.
That being said, though,
high bandwidth.
Yeah. That being said, though, there's a lot of things that you can do with your voice that you don't have to do an accent to do things with your voice. One thing I'll tell a lot of people, I was talking to a player the other day about him wanting to do playing a villain in one of his games. I was saying the power of silence is actually quite interesting. If you play with pauses, that's something I was actually talking to Josh about when we recorded the latest episode of Adventurers Anonymous.
Yes.
The time which you take to say something can instantly give you a lot of power as a if you're a villain or a bad person. Someone who speaks very deliberately immediately sounds a lot more powerful than someone who's talking like this and they've just got verbal diarrhea and they can't stop talking, because you know that the value of the words that they're saying are far higher because there's a lower quantity of them. So play with pauses, play with you're just doing a deeper voice is always good as well. Most people can end up doing quite a nice gruff voice if needed.
Everybody's got an orc voice. Everybody.
Absolutely. So, play around with a couple of things that you can do. And just because you're not a fantastic voice actor, you don't have to do voices. I think they're often a nice touch to distinguish a couple of NPCs, but don't feel like you need to do them because you'll put way too much pressure on yourself and you'll worry too much, and that's not needed.
Yeah. I mean, most of my character voice notes are literally just essentially how old they are, with their old, male, young, that kind of thing. And also whether or not that they're kind of a physical characteristic. There's like the eye squint, or whether they speak very slowly or very fast or very high or very low. They'll only be like 2 or 3 lines, and if you can get that intent across, they kind of get the gist. It doesn't have to be massive, it doesn't have to be huge, so there's no worry about it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is an interesting question, which is, how do you send off a player you know needs to go? It sounds like you're killing him, doesn't it? He needs to go, press the button. And he disappears into the floor. How do you just come to a point in your game where you know that, this person isn't a good fit for the group, it happens, we're human, people don't get along. How do you send that person off?
It's a tough one, and I always suggest people, I suggest you basically follow the same rules you would with breaking up with someone, right?
Yeah.
Don't do it via text message. Don't just try to do the fade and not acknowledge what happened, right? Just sit them down, explain what the deal is. It's not you, it's me. This isn't a good fit. I wish you all the best, but stop coming around.
Oh yeah, it's not you, it's not me. That's a really bad thing. I've
know.
done that. Don't give them the respect to say, this is something you're doing wrong, or something you're doing that isn't meshing with the group. It's not necessarily wrong. Cover it in the crap sandwich. I'd like to have a talk with you. There's no problem. You're doing this is shit, but this is maybe a group thing rather than just you thing. So do the shit sandwich is great.
It's not me. It's definitely you.
It's definitely you. Yeah. Give them respect and just be honest about it. If you can have an honest conversation, you're probably going to be able to fix it. If you can't, then then you probably have to get on with it, and then you can't anyway.
Yeah,
and just be honest about it. I mean, have the initial conversation of, here's a problem, maybe we should work on this and see what we can do. And then if they're still doing it, say, look, all right, I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
Yep.
Because I don't want to give 4 hours of you sitting there looking at your phone and not paying attention to anyone and just being an asshole.
Yeah, and it helps to couch it in difference from the group, right? That the rest of us are here and you are here. And so, you've highlighted the difference, and you can, to some degree, suspend value judgment, right? That being over here is not a problem. It's just you should find a group that is also over here, that also wants to do what you're doing, right? Because that is not this group.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, it's very easy to come to loggerheads of stuff like that, where you're like, you've got to get rid of that person. You know that, you've got to have that conversation. But a conversation doesn't necessarily have to be one where it's like, well, you're fucking bad, and this guy's like, well, fuck you too, and then you have a kind of shouting match which gets no one anywhere. Also, another thing to avoid is talking about that person with everyone else. And that gets really, really divisive in games.
It's really tempting because you want kind of some backup and support, right? Like, I'm not the only one who's sick of
Yeah,
Gary,
right.
right? But yeah, you start that rumor mill game. Nobody likes playing that. That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, if you're the DM, I think because you kind of have to a little bit play teacher, where you have to do, okay, I'm kind of in charge of this group by the fact I'm DM. There is a certain amount of responsibility you have for that. You kind of do need to check with everyone else to make sure you're not the only one. You do actually need to check that before you go in.
Am I the
This
dick?
person's a dick. Yeah, it's like, Roger, you're a dick, get out. And actually everyone else turns around and says, we were all Rogers too, get out, volley. That's the slight difference. But
Sure.
yeah, I mean, you need to have that conversation with everyone else and see if there is actually a genuine problem, that it's not just you. And if it's just you, maybe you're the tool and you should get over it. Maybe you should at least try. But yeah, you do need to talk to the rest of the group and see what the table feeling is.
That's
but
a very good
then
point.
sort it out as soon as possible. Don't
Yeah.
let it fester. Don't let it go whenever that person's not there. Everyone's leaking jabs at them and their characters and stuff. Because that's
Yeah,
just not cool.
I think you're right. I think it's absolutely fine if you have that conversation and a decision is made. It's like, yeah, let's get rid of this person, and then you go talk to that person. But when it becomes like mean is when you have that conversation but nothing gets done, and then you continue to play, and then the group just falls apart quite quickly because of that kind of divisiveness.
Yeah.
Deal with it as soon as it comes up, because it's festering and it's just toxic and not worth it.
And by the time you or other people are willing to talk about it, it's already bad enough to do something about it.
Right, yeah. But you're right, and it does need to be some self-evaluation. Like, am I a dickhead? Because sometimes you are. Like we've all been in that position where we are in the wrong, but it definitely feels like you're not.
Yeah.
As much as one strives not to be a dick, I also think it's a rite of passage you kind of have to go through as a person. Is you have to generally be a dick. That's a part of life that I think any of us can bypass. It's a class feature of being humanity. We have to take the dick perk at some point.
It's not my fault. I'm just
on.
a dick.
You have to learn certain things the hard way, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
By don't do what Donnie don't does unintentionally, right? Like, that's how you don't force everyone into the terrible trap you designed, and you thought it was so clever, and then they got a great workaround, and then you force them through it anyway because you're a terrible person.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. I mean, the exact way that I'm giving this advice is because I've made those mistakes. I've had groups where we didn't talk about it, and we talked about a player, and everything fell apart. All of this is from some 10 years or so of fucking things up. So Don't make the mistakes I made, kids.
Yes, spoiler alert. We may look like we have our shit together. Nobody has their shit together.
Yes, the
So
secret
don't worry
of
about it.
All faking it.
that's the secret of
everyone
adults.
is faking it,
Yeah. Having just turned 20, I'm beginning to realize that everyone has no fucking clue what's going on. I'm like, my
You're
parents
such a
don't have a fucking
baby.
clue.
You're such a young baby, so innocent.
So Skullcast, how do you stop a DM from using similar sounding names at a count of a dozen or two? So Drizzt approaches, then there's the Drizzt the Ranger, then Dizzit the Bar Wench, then Dizzy the Tavern Wench, then Tizzit the Soldier, then Rizzit the fucking... How do you stop that? Give them a fucking list
give them
of
a
names
list.
to pick from. That's the way you solve that. Or send them to a name generator where they can have it on their phone, tablet, whatever, and they can just click it. Or
And that also sounds like a good session 0 type of topic, right?
Yeah.
How that? I mean, if this may be a seriousness thing, right?
Sure.
If they're doing it because they think it's funny, not
Right,
because
right,
they're just incapable of coming up with different names, right? I
yeah.
definitely will come up with like an entire session will have every NPC have alliterative names because I think that's hilarious.
right.
But if my players don't enjoy that little game
Yeah.
of the town of everyone with similar lettered names, then maybe
Sure.
shame's on me for not soliciting their sign-in.
Yeah,
agreement.
and I think sometimes with that stuff, like, you're always gonna get misfires with comedy, with seriousness, with anything you do in RPGs. We've all made an NPC who's a quest giver who they immediately kill, or who they don't take the quest for, and you're like, well, shit, and this is me fucking it up. So you're always gonna get those misfires. So don't worry when you do, hit those bum notes. It's like, or no one cares.
It's worth remembering it, like, if you're doing those session zeros and someone's saying, I want to take this seriously, please stop naming all your characters Jeff or Steve or whatever it is. Please stop naming them John. That kind of
Right.
thing. it's there's a fairly easy fix, but it definitely something you should bring up in session 0, because session 0 isn't just for the players, it's also for the DMs. If there's something that they want you to try and do differently, like they want to push you to describe things better without using pictures, or they want you to have a go doing character voices, you can give it a go, as much as you're asking them to stay in character more often, you're asking them to take the thing seriously. It's just as much to talk to the DM about a session 0 as it is for the players. So it's worth definitely something bringing up. For me, it was stop telling, which is my tales of rolling my sleeves up when I think something cool is about to happen or about to turn something on them. Apparently, that's something I do. Something I was pointing out to me the other day. I'm like, okay, I've got to work on that. I'll stop wearing invisible sleeves.
That's a funny one. I hadn't heard that one before. I like it.
That came from Roger.
Nice, classic Roger.
Classic Roger. Love Roger.
What's he like? Fantastic. Let's get to a couple of other questions here. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask them. Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds for you guys, if using online tools, of course.
I've only played with Roll20, and I've been satisfied enough with it that I probably would not branch out.
Yeah, likewise.
I've also exclusively done Roll20. To be fair, I could easily play a game across Zoom without any tabletop stuff, so
yeah,
it's whatever suits you.
Yeah,
I can't say either way.
Yeah, it's at some point I've definitely realized that you mentioned already that body language has so much of this. It's so much higher bandwidth than just voice, and that's what I finally realized is that taking up screen real estate with the map conducts less effective communication between the players than doing screen real estate for cameras.
Right.
If I can see the funny expression you're making or how you laugh at my bad jokes, then we're gonna have a much better time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you can just use Hangouts. You can, Skype, whatever. But if you are looking for a virtual tabletop, my personal suggestion would be Roll20. It's free, easy for people to use, quite intuitive. You don't have to have Steam or Fantasy Grounds. Pre-made stuff, yeah. Fantasy Grounds, you end up buying quite a lot of bits from what I see in subscriptions. But hey, some people like it, and more power to you. I've got all these questions in the list, so if you haven't had your question answered, it's on the list. So, B&B Tavern asked, what's the proudest homebrew you all made, from campaign, item, or NPC? The most proud you've been, where you've been like, I did so well, I am proud of myself, I'm going to give myself a pat on the back.
I managed to, I inherited a large group. This was the very first group I DM'd. So, of course, every experience is magnified, right? It's the first big group you take over.
Sure.
And luckily, I'd been a player in the group for a while, so I kind of knew everybody's tendencies. And after my big first sort of arc, it was like a little mini story that I was really excited to deliver. It was about 12 or so sessions, 10 maybe. I identified some very specific, exclusively designed loot for different players to kind of bring out, like... I'd looked over character sheets and like, oh, you've been getting way underlooted, and so have you, because neither of you cared about loot, right? So now you're really underperforming. But then there's another character I was like, you're really super quiet, right? And I'd love for you, but you have a deep internal monologue going on. You send a lot of backstory, but you're quiet at the table. And I ended up designing part of this arc had to do with this spirit of a human who had been wronged, right, in their life, and they had to put the spirit to rest, and that was great. And so I invented some ritual, and they needed the biggest sword they had, which was, of course, this player's bastard sword. It was the largest sword in the group, right? And a portion of this spirit was embedded forever in the sword, and so it had an ability to cast, like, Unseen Servant twice a day.
Right.
Which is not that mechanically valuable, but and it was also a +1 sword, right? And they didn't, the player didn't need mechanical help, but just the fact that it's not Unseen Servant, they know, and they have all this connection, emotional connection with the spirit they put to rest, and now it'll come back to do odds and then chores for you. Like that character got so much personal value and satisfaction out of having that item, and I felt really enriched from having done it.
Nice. What about you, Valonda?
I kind of have, like, I guess 3 things that I'm really proud of.
I'm actually kind of the best, so...
No, like, one of them is actually, it was kind of a group moment. It wasn't me who did this, but I somehow managed to set this crap up, where essentially they went into, because at the time we were swapping out GMs, you do an arc, and then someone would take over, you play the same group of characters, and my character was out for the arc, and I sent her off so that at the end of the arc she'd be picked up. So she was kidnapped along with the guy they were actually picking up. And they weren't supposed to know she was with these guys, and they ended up nat 20ing every goddamn check to try and find her. Every single one. Her boyfriend character, every check, every goddamn check. It was so annoying. Anyway, so they had this thing where, we would play the traditional group of, like, we would always murder hobo our way in. We just assault our way in with, like, big guns and hit people. They actually spent a session planning they spent a session planning how they were going to break into this place
Those are
and
good
rescue
sessions.
my character and another person's character, and they spent so long planning and doing it. And I thought, okay, I respect that. I'll make things easier for them. One of them went and actually, fucked it up. So I made her scream, and the boyfriend character just dove through the wall, and I was like, they planned this and they still stuck to their characters and went for it anyway. And I was so proud of them as a group that I'd set this up. That was probably the most proud I've ever been of anything I've ever done in an RPG, was actually that moment. And it wasn't me who crafted it, it was just them getting there together. And that was probably my favourite thing. Other than that, it was probably the time I made them meet death in a room. One of them had to sacrifice themselves to move on, and that was the trap.
Nice.
They ended up having ended up playing a game of Chance with Death, flipping a coin and pissing off Death, walking out. It's like, haha, Death, fuck you. It's like, don't taunt Death. It's tacky. That was probably my other favorite thing I set up, was this trap of Death, and they thwarted it. So,
Nice.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah, tough one. I think, for me, it's probably for players as well. Watching. I play with a bunch of beginners every Monday. I've done for different groups of them for a couple of months now, and it's been really, really enjoyable to watch them kind of come from that very beginner awkward stage out into really confident players. And for me, that's probably one. It's not homebrew or fucking item or anything like that, but it's probably the proudest thing is seeing players who really want to learn coming out of themselves and becoming really confident in playing, and that's a great feeling. And asking me questions and be like, how can I move out of the beginner's game? Can I go to a different game or explore this whole role-playing game thing? And that's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed that. Other than that, though, if you're interested in the campaign, I'm proud of the work of Adventurers Anonymous that we're all doing over there, and that homebrew world is cool.
Oh, yeah.
An NPC in particular is God, what's his name? The baddie.
There are so many, dude. There are so many.
Okay.
Which bad, dude? Everyone we is bad. I'm pretty sure that we are also probably included bad.
The Eisentongue. Eisentongue.
Oh, Volker.
No.
Volker.
No, Eisentongue isn't Volker.
Oh no! Oh god!
See, you got to remember me.
I was
anyway,
so annoyed with him.
Episode 11.
Really
that's what
angry
I
at
was
him.
Let's go. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Oh man, how does the group kick out their DM out of fear? The DM TPKs the entire party. Yeah. How do you kick a DM out of a game? I don't think you do, right? I think you leave the game.
Yeah, you all rage quit and then find a new DM.
Yeah.
If he threatens to TPK because you all leave, it's like, well, just ignore that session where you TPK'd and then carry on with another DM. No, you don't have to worry for fear of that. If the DM's not working for you, then just find another game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or start a new one, right? Go down one. Have somebody volunteer to DM.
Yeah.
Volunteers tribute.
It's always the thing. If you are in what I like to call an abusive D&D relationship, and you're only with this group or only with this person because you think that there's no one else out there to play D&D with, then you're wrong, my friend. Because there are a million different people out there who you can play D&D with, and
there are plenty more fish in the sea who will treat you better.
Yeah.
GTMFA.
Yeah. He's not worth it. You're better than that. Okay, so what do you think about about DMs who are too passive and don't make enough rules? I had a DM who basically let any player who argued something do whatever they wanted to do. The table was essentially run by one or more of the players, and DM just let players decide their own rules if they argued it enough. So the DM who's maybe a little bit too lax with rules, I try and avoid that, but perhaps sometimes I am too lenient. And other players at the table, maybe they feel.
So funny, Will.
Not with you guys. You get mean Will. You get 6 a.m. recording Will. that's the Will that you get.
That's rough.
Yeah, but taking favourites maybe or being too easily persuaded. What do you do with that?
I think that's a tough one, and to my mind, that also implies a difference in what you're looking for, right? Clearly, a couple of the players are looking to rules lawyer because they get something out of that, right? And also to win, right? They're part of the group who thinks D&D is a game that you're supposed to win, and the DM clearly does not think it's a game that the DM should be invested in trying to win, right? So they say, "Oh, fine," right? Or does not want to engage in confrontation, which is very possible, right? But the other players in the group, they seem to not want to win or not want to play the rules lawyer game. So that's a mismatch in what game they want to play. I think you can retroactively have a session 0 and say, okay, what do we actually want out of this game? What does all of us think is fun? And if we all want a rules lawyer, then let's do it, right? And if we all want to win, let's do it. But let's find some mini games that we're all having fun with, or at least let's. If these two really want to win in rules lawyer and these two want to do something else, let's switch back and forth and make sure there's a good balance of things so that everyone feels like they're having fun.
Yeah, Absolutely. It almost sounds to me like the players who are asking to like fluff some rules might not be rules lawyers. It might be the guy who's upset that they're pushing the rules, who might be a bit more strict. And it's like, well, this can't happen in the game. And maybe, consider, is it you that is not flexible to the rest of the group who are actually quite flexible with how they play the game? But yeah, talk to the group about it. Talk to your dungeon master. But however, I'm absolutely fine with you saying, fuck the rules. You can, as a dungeon master, yeah, sure, you can do that rule of cool or whatever. But at the same time, if you make a decision, it has to be fair. It has to be fair for the rest of the group as well. So if you make a decision, then you've got to stick to that, really.
It should also be consistent. If your GM, I mean, we tend to have, if you can argue it, and at the moment I say yes, doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's going to be going forward. So just at the beginning of session, fucked up. That's not how we're doing it from now on. This is the ruling. Move on. It's not worth arguing over. Move on. This is the decision we made. As a DM, you kind of you're in that role of making sure those rules are kind of followed. But there's no reason why you can't hand that job off to somebody else. There's no reason why you can't go, all right, as a DM, I just want to tell the story. All I'm interested in is telling the story. Okay, in that case, Jeff, you can be the rules lawyer. You can say what does and what doesn't go. I mean, to be fair, as a DM, you need to have a little bit of control over that because you are telling the world. But if it's mechanical, there's no reason why the DM should have to. I mean, I've seen games where, we've literally had someone else running the rules, and that might be something you might want to look at handing over. But I think if your DM is completely being battered down by a couple of people in the group, then maybe those people have really big egos and the other one doesn't. So that's something you definitely want to talk about. So as you were saying, there's no reason not to have a retroactive session 0 and try and balance the group out and just talk about it. I mean, communication is key. This is literally what our game is based around.
Yeah. It's a game based fundamentally on consent. Do we all consent to play the game we're playing?
Yeah, absolutely. This one, quick question: how do you go about finding a group? I've tried to do local things, but everyone I've met is either a douche or never actually around to play. Should I try to become part of Roll20 groups or whatever forms I should check? I do have a command list, the amount of times it gets asked. Exclamation point play game, there is a video there, I think on the find game, on the 9 or 10 different methods I have for finding a game, both in real life and online, and I'd send you towards that, so otherwise people watching this on YouTube and you guys listening in chat probably heard this question answered a million times at this point, so there is a command. Hopefully that helps out. One other thing to bear in mind is D&D Beyond now has a Looking for Game forum as well, so that might be one other place to check out. Okay, I actually have a question. This is Richard. He actually has a real question. Wow. Wow, the fuck boy. I need help with encounter roleplay. The dwarf PC is adventuring to avenge his family and regain his father's pickaxe, the Giant's Bone, which is a scepter that each king of his clan owns and stuff. Long story short, Nesnar in Lost Mine of Phandelver, he's a drow, has it because he needs it for a ritual. Since he's going to get it at level 5, how can I make that item important without having heavy game mechanic purposes?
So the question I had about this question was, what do you mean by important?
Right.
I mean, clearly there's the person who asked it sees a tension between two concepts of this item, and like important without game mechanic important. Right. Does that mean you want it to be valuable but not like a +5 sword of awesome, like pickaxe of awesome valuable? Is that the tension?
It sounds like what the question is to me, but yeah, we could ask Richard for further as well. But I'd imagine you want it to be important to the story, but you don't want it to be an item of godly power which gets destroys the universe because the character now has it. Yeah. Which is makes sense. You're at level 5. You want to have cool items, but you don't want them to every fight you go into now you just win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, I mean, if you want it to be not an item of lordly power, right? Then give it a magical ability for something you guys don't consider part of the game that you're trying to win. If you're trying to win combat, don't make it have magical properties for combat. If you're trying to win mystery and investigation, don't give it magical powers that have to do with mystery and investigation. But there are I rarely meet D&D game groups that try to win wilderness survival. So give it wilderness survival powers, right? Or it's a pickaxe that's due to mining. Give it mining powers that are hard to exploit. No, it doesn't make gold, right?
Right.
I think you can come up with powers or abilities that make this a really special, unique, wonderful item, in addition to the plot you've already established, that don't make it incredibly corrupted.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, if it's like the Scepter of a King, it could be added to Persuasion,
Yeah.
Intimidation, it could up your Charisma while you have it, whilst with other dwarves, there's loads of little things you can do, like, game-wise you could do that, but if from the sounds of it, it's the staff of a king and it goes past it already has importance in your world.
Yeah.
It literally already has importance. All you can do is just add more to it. If you want to give them a reward for having it, cool, then yeah, do something as Scott was saying about not making it game breaking, but just something small off the side.
The Monster Manual is Dungeon Master's Guide, in fact, is a very good tool for finding good, useful combat items to have, but it's really not the limit of where you can go with things. So who's to say it doesn't give you, like you say, out of combat bonuses? And I think that's a cool idea. Okay, so as a DM in a world with gods, let's hope there is a character here. With a world with gods and characters that play with respect to specific gods, i.e., paladins, where they choose, say, Helm as their god. Then get challenged to an honourable 1v1 fight. He agrees to the terms of the fight, and a regular party member violates the rules, which causes some of the people that you were trying to save to get killed as repercussion to said action, and now you've violated the oath and fought your own, but still... Okay, don't say question there, but it was at me, so good stuff. Sounds like an interesting story, at the very least. A 1v1 combat, paladins, fighting stuff. Why not?
So wait, so the paladin broke their oath and caused other players to get beat on or injured because of this?
Yeah, I think so.
That sounds like they've got a fallen paladin on their hands.
Someone violates the rules, yeah.
RPG Gold is paladins who fall.
Yeah, also
it's the same with clerics, yeah.
If it's a question of one guy fucked it up for the rest of the group, then make sure that there are in character I missed this part. Okay, there are in character like consequences for screwing something up. The rest of the party might be mad at that guy. Why did you do that, dude? Yeah. So think about that. What do you do when the PC breaks their oath? You look up your alignment chart and you burn it.
Yeah.
We had one game where I was my character had a vow of silence and then got bitten by a werewolf, right?
Ah.
And turned evil in the middle of the night and did horrible, unquestionable things. And so first we had to go on this long quest to get this thing that is an ingredient to resolve my soul for the terrible things I did as a werewolf, right? After getting cured. And then they're casually mentioned in the ritual because I accidentally suggested this to the DM as a joke. It says, now all we need for the ritual is your name. And we'll get this right down. And the Vow of Silence character can't give his name, so we had to go on a second quest. It was
write it down.
No, it's a vow of non-communication, not silence. Common misconception. Yeah. It was it was a low blow, but it was role-playing gold. We had 10, 12 good sessions between those two ideas, just because of that random encounter werewolf, and then it bit you, and now you have lycanthropy.
Nice. That's cool. Let's see. Okay, so I'm doing a D&D one-shot with some of the cast of Steven Universe. Do you have any suggestions for any type for when playing a group with different levels of experiences? Yeah. Playing with some guys who experience, some guys who've never heard of D&D. What do you bring to the table as a dungeon master to help people out, I guess?
I think, right? I loved YOLO's suggestion about right? About having some characters mentor, some players mentor others. I think that was a really good idea.
Yeah.
I also sort of enjoy, I've always taken, when you're playing in person, I take really basic steps. Like as a DM, I consciously choose who sits where. The quietest players and the newest players sit close to me, and the noisy jerks who I know will never have problem taking enough screen time sit well far away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think some of those basics will probably help you and them have a good time.
If you're doing a one shot, I mean, I did something very similar. I played with a guy who'd never played before, and I played with Neil, and I played with a bunch of people who've been playing like for friggin' ever. I ran that session as if it's rules light, so I did as little rolling as possible and left it almost exclusively down to role playing. Mm-hmm. Once we had like one or two times where we've done a little bit of rolling and the combat was exceptionally short, just to break them in, like, oh, you come across a gnoll or something and you blat him on the head. Once that character had done the blatting, it's like, right, now you have an idea of what that means, and we'll move on, and we'll keep rules light, we'll keep combat light, we'll keep it all role play based. And then we hit the final battle, and then everything just went to hell anyway, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, I can say if you're doing something with someone very low, with someone who's never played before, and they're kind of a bit nervous, a bit worried about it, or just you have a feeling they're not going to be great on the rules, just strip it down as much as you can, and just reduce the amount of things. People who know that a lot, get them to roll more than say the people nearby. But yeah, if you are definitely playing with them, definitely get the quiet people to sit near you. And I always split up my troublemakers because I put them next to each other.
It's like teachers in
There's
school.
not a chance. Yeah, exactly.
The two naughty kids
like,
never get to sit next to each other.
Yeah, my other half, Andy, and my best mate, Andy, I sit them on, as much as I can, opposite ends. Apart from the fact they're both called Andy, and it helps not to direct Andy in one corner of the room. Having them at opposite ends, having them both talk and chat and have a go at each other, it's so much better to have them split up. So yeah, if you know some people in the group splitting up, if you've got really good players or really experienced ones, put them near the newer ones, and definitely put the quiet ones closer to you. Actually together.
I love your suggestion about playing rules light. I feel like often whenever I see new players, like the rules are intimidating to people who haven't played before.
Yeah.
They seem straightforward to us, but the rules are terrifying to new players. And so the less you involve the rules, the more just make it a conversation. Like you've sat around a table and had a conversation. We can pretend we're wizards for an hour. It's fun.
Yeah.
So if you can get them over that hump, the rules can come later.
Yeah, because quite often they'll say like, "Can I do this?" Like, yeah, you've just said it, you've just done it. Screw it, why not? You can just you can strip them down. If you think the rule is going to be like more complicated than it's worth, just get rid of it for the evening if it's a one shot. So if you want to do long term campaign, ease them into it. Have the intro session, 2 intro, 3 intro if they really need, and then stack it up from there.
It's interesting, isn't it? The newer you are, sometimes a lot of players that are newer will find the rules are far more important than more experienced players. So it's interesting to start them out with that. Don't worry about it too much. These are just some fucking rules, man. It's just some words on a piece of paper. But it's interesting. But the rules are almost holy when you're new. It's like, but these are the rules. So the follow-up question.
You come with the assumption.
Yeah. The follow-up question from Kooky was, so now that oath has been broken, and this is at the start of the campaign, as a DM, I don't want to destroy a character right away due to party members' actions, so how would you handle that? So, it's the case where someone in the group has made the paladin break his oath, or the paladin's broken his oath, but you don't want to, destroy the whole campaign just over one player's actions of the group. It's a tough one. I mean, is a player okay with changing that oath?
I think if it sounds like you don't want to change the campaign to be about this oath breaking incident, right?
Yeah.
If you want to plow on with your existing campaign, you can have it be a side color thing, and you can talk to this player about having their character evolve, right? Give them a session or two of no powers, right? And then their divine powers come back, and it's a mystery as to why. But play it like a B story, right? On television, right? They, like every episode of Star Trek, right? They have like the thing that threatens the ship, and then also
B story.
Geordi and LaForge, and Data, right? Go learn how to drink alcohol, right? Like something boring and funny on the side. And so you can play it as the funny on the side thing, right? Funny or serious, whatever you want. But you can play it as a B story level interaction that's mildly interesting and still has social implications and feels rough. But it doesn't have to take the whole feature and wipe their whole character.
We've had a fallen paladin before. He went off on vengeance and then murdered rather than vengeance. I don't really know. For whatever reason, our DM decided that he was, his paladin powers were going to fall, and he went for 6 sessions without his paladin powers. So literally just stripped and gone from him, and that was awful because we're level 10 characters. So we had this guy who wandered around with no paladin. He was completely basically.
He was a terrible fighter.
He was a crap fighter basically, and we had to spend all this time just like dealing with him, and we just couldn't get through. Yeah, oh my gosh, Roger, tell me about it. And our DM, Roger. No, so yeah, we found it really difficult, but having been through that and having gone through the power stripping thing, I probably would never do that again. I would never let the paladin's powers completely go unless they wanted to change class, they wanted to do something slightly different, in which case, work with your player, do this, yada yada. But I'd probably just roleplay the whole thing. So like every time they use their smiting powers, just say, you don't feel right, your body feels cold and you start trembling, and you make it about that role-playing aspect, but you don't tell them what the mechanical effect is, and just, as a DM, you don't have to. You can just make it completely roleplay, until they do something which redeems themselves or something, and then suddenly you make them go through the whole holy experience being found or chosen again if they're a cleric or a paladin or whatever you wish to choose. I would personally just go through RP unless your character, your player says, okay, I'm willing to change and do something else. So I would almost exclude you as RP it now.
there are a lot of things that are not more. There are a few things that are more motivating than the promise of doom coming from a DM, right? Looming sense of unease. That's really good.
Yeah, you tell them there's a meta effect happening, but you don't tell them what. They don't have to have anything. You're the DM.
It's like
nobody
rolling.
sees your script.
It's terrifying.
It's like rolling dice rolls, but no immediate effect comes up as a dungeon master.
I always do that. I'm always rolling just to put them on edge.
I think it's always interesting with paladins as well. Like you start off as a holy character, and I like the idea of having to ascend to that level of holiness. Because then they feel like they've earned it. Whereas as a paladin, immediately you're like, I know everything. I am the best. Whereas I quite like that idea where you go for they go for a spiritual journey to become a paladin. That's a neat little idea there.
I think I remember how it being that paladins have chosen their god, clerics are chosen by their gods, I believe. One gets a call and one turns up on the door hammering for power, and they're like, okay, fine. That's vaguely how I remember them, but I think if the god has grace to give you powers as a paladin and you fall, you should definitely have to earn that back. But running through the level 10 paladin with no powers is awful. So bad. I would never do that to another character. I would never let that happen to them again.
Poor paladins, man. Also,
get a harsh took.
Also fight paladins, but there you go. I mean, it's...
they fight dirty. They fight dirty. Alignment's my trigger. Let's see.
I think that's the current battle questions. We talked about casting different levels of experience, but I think I agree. To touch on that one, to have a non-mechanic way of doing things, and that's something I've done quite a lot when it comes to. Someone in the chat was asking earlier, I've got this cool idea for a weapon, how do I stat this unique weapon I've made? Well, you don't have to, just take one of their weapons and just flavor it, and a lot of the time when I see of homebrew stuff, did a long series on reviewing homebrew content, writing homebrew content. And it was, I've got this unique idea for a character. Now I have to make a race or class based around that idea. And for me, that's it's nonsensical. For me, it's we've got these fantastic archetypes in the book. Just flavor your fighter as this unique, inquisitor. Flavor your rogue as this, puppeteer or whatever. You can do so much within those archetypes by just reflavoring things. And the same goes for monsters as well. I've got this weird monster, I have to stat it. Don't fucking do maths, dude. What's wrong with you? Just look at the stat block that works and change the skin of it.
It's incredible to me that the content in the Player's Handbook presents the mechanics and the fluff, and the mechanics and the fluff. Why don't we have two books? One book of all the mechanics, right? Here's a small dexterous like goblinoid type creature that hits for this, and here's a larger vestigial creature, right? Monsters, right? And here's a dex based damaging character, and here's a dex based something. And then over here, quite separately, there's orcs and monsters and gnolls, and that way it reinforces to players the idea that and the DMs, right? I prepped a goblin encounter. They didn't go to the goblin caves. They went to the city. Well, these goblins are now guards because I could give a crap, right? And they won't notice.
I think because if you look at any MOBAs online, they bring out characters and then they recolor the skin or they reskin them with something else, and that's a big deal. It's you can do that with pretty much anything. You can have a sorcerer and play them like you would as if they're a warlock, because their power comes from who bloody knows where. And then you can go, this sorcerer almost exclusively use psionics, and there's nothing psionics in here. It's well, just flavor it. Tell them that rather than setting them on fire, you're burning their immortal soul or something. It's all in the way that you describe it. So
yeah, it's so interesting to me. D&D players are so creative and always think outside the box, but people just can't get over it. People it's a real stumbling block. People, I have to make a homebrew thing for this. It has to be homebrew. It's dude, please just stop. You're terrible at balancing things. You're not a game designer. Wizards are the game designers. And I've tried writing homebrew stuff and it's shit. Unless it's based on very heavily templated. The amount of homebrew things I've seen that are basically just bad are incredible. Small percent artists, good. The most interesting ideas I find is how do I do a witch hunter in D&D? Well, you don't have to have a fucking class for it. You play a paladin or play a mage or whatever, and reskin and refluff, and Always make sure to be a fluffer. It's very, very important.
Yes, fluffing is important.
So, have you ever recycled a character you made to play a game as an NPC for any campaigns? Yeah, I think more as a joke or as a fun aside to some of the players. If you've been playing a long-time campaign, I switched into the DMC and was playing in the same universe, and maybe my character has shown up before, or their characters have shown up before as NPCs in game. Yeah, I've done that before.
I do it all
Often.
the time, so much, especially if I'm playing with long-term players. I have this one character that was supposed to be an aside. His name is James, and I said, James is a good-looking character, and someone, he has the face of a bastard. And he's now in every game. Everyone hates him. I can just begin to describe him because I'm like, yes. And of course, there's this young man. He's like, it's James, kill him! For God's sake, I've just got to do that. That's again talking back to that character voice and character. It's just that they know who this person is as soon as I start. That he runs his hands. I can't put it because I've got a headset on, but he runs his hands through his hair, and that they know immediately who that is, and that's a nice little throwback for them because they know that character. They know what he's going to be like, and it's a good throwback for them. And quite often, especially if I played games where the campaign hasn't finished for whatever reason. I mean, you always have those games where the DM drops out, a group of people drop out, and you never finish. And I just pick that character up, I drop them in another game and have them finish. So I can go, right, that character is done, or that character's really fun to play, whatever. So
I've never ever done that, and it sounds incredible. I should
it's fun.
really take that.
It's fun. For me, it's mostly a way either to, thank the long-term players, or if I'm picking up a character I never got to finish, I can finally let their story go, because there's nothing more annoying than a story that isn't finished.
So you wrote the story for them. I like it. And then they went on to become the king and queen. And
oh no! I gave her horrific visions, and now she's like tormented. So that's how her story ended.
That sounds like.
Boy, if you guys had actually finished that campaign, she would have saved her.
Yeah, but now
she's
you're not
just
playing
tortured.
I know, if she'd finished that campaign, her
fucked.
soul would have been sold to, she was a warlock, so she would have gone to the Great Old One, and who knows what would have happened to her, but now she's getting horrific visions in the temple, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So now
go.
you guys know why you have to go to every single palace until you find the princess.
That's the reason.
I never wanted to play a princess character, but apparently.
There you go. The princess character chose you. So Louise asked, what is your opinion on making your own boxed text for a campaign? It's interesting. Is it better to do it on the fly so it doesn't sound rehearsed, or is it better to know what you're saying? Yeah, I tend to bullet point stuff. I tend not to necessarily... For important sequences, I might write out a sentence, actually, or a paragraph of something. But for general room descriptions, I tend not to bother. I might write a couple of bullet points down about what's in the room, and then go from there. I know Ben Cantor, I mentioned him 10 minutes ago or so, he writes all his own box text for it, but he's a fucking author, and it sounds great. And when I write it, it's like the wall is blue, the sofa is also blue. It sounds like that in comparison.
You'll be like the Lister comes like, there is a ball, a big red ball.
Yeah.
I found that whenever I write box text or set text to describe a piece, the real thing that ruins and robs it of all power is that I'm the one who says it at the table. And I'm not going to deliver my writing, right? I might take 45 minutes to write this amazing paragraph, and then I just bumble through like an idiot, and people are distracted and on their phones. And so I like to think that if I feel like a description or something is so important that I want to write it down, then I email it out to the party in downtime between hand, right? And then kind of solicit some questions like, what are you guys doing? This is the new city you're in, right? So they can kind of read and digest it on their own time. And they get all those important words, right? If there was a subtle reveal halfway through, it's not lost on the whole player base, right? And then I don't have to accidentally worry that I'm going to overemphasize the gargoyle on the tower because they realize it's actually a gargoyle. Right?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that before. Yeah, I tend not to write box text for some, particularly important scenes. I'll write a couple of sentences or so, but I've played with folks who always just read out box text exactly from like the module that we're playing. And I don't know, it didn't feel impactful to me. It felt as though they were just reading it off. And I don't know, for some reason I didn't feel as like important what they were saying for some reason. Whereas when it's because I haven't written it, I guess. Maybe there's something psychologically going on there with me where I just kind of turn off when someone's just reading something out at me. But when I'm being engaged by someone who's actually just speaking and thinking of these things, and
it's from standardized testing in grade schools, right? They read you that box text from the you're going to take your number 2 pencil, and you're just like, you're gone.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think because you have like everyone has a unique voice. And when you're reading from a box section, you're reading literally somebody else's words, somebody else's voice. So it breaks your natural flow. Yeah. And I mean, I personally never write box sections, never have done. I have an idea of what a place might look like, unless I'm going, right, I'm going to hide this in this particular place because it's a puzzle or whatever. I will walk into someone's apartment, well, we will appear in somebody's apartment, and I will just go, and the apartment looks like a big room, like a garage full of crap. I mean, that will then be that room, and that's actually, funny enough, exactly how I've described my main character's hovel, etc. So yeah, that's I don't think I've ever write box section, and if I do speeches, I only ever have like a single line, the final line, so I can babble my way there and then go, this is where I'm going to end the session. Yes, bam, that's the emphasis, that's where I end.
I will echo that I've never written entire dialogue for NPCs, but I've found incredible luck writing individual lines. Like I'll write 3 one-line shots that I think are really, really good and characterful for that NPC, and then a line I can deliver, right?
Yeah.
Look at you, my little pretties, versus like, meh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I like that.
Trying to finish like a long dialogue where they're giving a speech is really difficult because you're doing it on the fly, and if I have a final line, I know that I can babble and then do that, and then that'll be end, and I know exactly how to finish that. Then
stick the landing.
Segue that. Yeah, stick the landing, exactly. If you know how to stick the landing, the rest of the speech you can babble your way through.
It's a brilliant idea.
Yeah. We were talking earlier in our writing about writing, campaign writing with Phil. We were talking about writing if-then questions. If you're having trouble speaking in that character's voice, or NPC's voice, and knowing what information they know, then write, if I'm asked about this, then the character will say this quick line, or this bullet point. If asked about this, then that. And that can help you just think about exactly how questions are going to be answered, because sometimes it's all very well having the intro description and speech, but when you have to actually play that character in a normal conversation, that can be difficult for people. How do you continue to have a conversation with someone like that? Interesting stuff. Someone asked about how do you keep traps interesting? How do you change up traps? I feel like my PCs face the same traps, 5 to 10 traps over and over. I'm really bad at maps. Traps. Been something I've been trying to get better at. Take a look at the Unearthed Arcana on Traps Revised. It's got a bunch of different ways of creating unique and interesting traps. That would be my advice. That's where I'm getting my help from, basically. What about you guys?
What I've always gotten most mileage out of on traps is never leaving them alone in a room. The traps are always most interesting to me and my players when there's also a MacGuffin you have to get, or some looming terror that you're trying to flee from, or like a ticking clock, or
right.
Some even just like a really beautiful or unique visual thing, right? You're on the precipice of a cliff, and this boulder is just rolling out of the cliff and pushing you off, right, rather than just being a boulder that crushes you. So small descriptors, or there being a lot more going on than just the trap. So the rogue can deal with the trap while everyone else deals with the rest that's going on.
It's puzzle and trap.
Puzzle and trap.
You shouldn't ever just do one. Puzzles on their own, if they wait long enough, or take 10, or whatever the old school thing was of like taking an hour or some BS like that to fix the things, like there's no pressure on the trap. It will have no effect if there's no like real idea that they're both going to fail and then die, or they're going to immediately die. If you put in a puzzle to solve at the same time as there being a trap, then there is the factor of it's got to be done under pressure, and you have to actually make the people who aren't the rogue do something, which you have to work together to get this thing done, and that's always a great way to bond together. But yeah, I never do puzzles and I never do traps solo. I always put them together.
I really like the idea of group puzzles and traps. I find them to be the most interesting ones. Ones that you are required to have a bunch of different people involved in, rather than just the rogue goes and does it. And I guess they're meant to be their thing, and obviously they're going to be the most proficient in doing it. But I do remember one quite memorable trap slash puzzle, combo, we had to do it in time, because if you didn't do it in time, then the bad stuff happened. It's like Indiana Jones, basically. You think of all the cool puzzles in Indy. If he doesn't do them in time, then he gets screwed. If he doesn't manage to jump over the invisible bridge in time and get across that, then his dad's gonna die. Or you got to spin it in the exact right time and roll for those spinning blades in the third one, for instance. And one particular one where you had to have the whole group, and there was Mitch had done it for the group of 3 of us, and it required 6 levers to be pulled and held at the same time, and obviously one person can't do that. You have to have 3 people to do it, so each different hands and stuff like that. It was a great time, and really made the whole group involved in the puzzle solving rather than just one guy who rolls an investigation check and now it's solved. Also a great module if you like your traps, in particular mummy-based traps, pyramid traps. I wrote it out for you. It's Domes of Ishak Zahur, which was on Kickstarter.
That's so good.
Yeah, they sponsored us to play it. Probably getting on for a year now, but it's really stayed with me. The traps, the puzzles, the boss fights in that are fantastic. It's quite old school in that regard. Deadly for sure, and good source of inspiration for different traps if you're interested in that. So Louise has a question here. She asks us this, and if you guys do have questions, feel free to fire them in the chat. We'll do our best to try and get to them. So also, what's your opinion on adding mechanics to the game? I've DM'd a sesh before where we had a timed challenge. We put a stopwatch and the party needed to complete some obstacles in whatever way they're choosing to either escape a room or save an NPC before the time ran out. If the time runs out, they fail and take the consequences. The time watch is a fucking brilliant idea. I've done this in the past, and it's always yielded really nerve-wracking results from the players, and they've loved it.
I think it's a good way to keep yourself on task too. I got a 20-minute sand timer, like a large one, and I've set it in the middle of the table before. And I've run one game where it was just a timed thing, right? And if they ran out before they got the MacGuffin, that was it. But I ran one really condensed game. It's a Catacon, our podcast puts on an annual convention. So last year at a Catacon, I ran a condensed 1-hour game where the goal was to hit 4 systems. And introduce players to 4 mechanics systems they may not have played. And so I put this 20-minute timer out, and the deal was once it hit the end of the sand, we transitioned to a new scene, and you'd all be in a new system. So you better hit your goal. Cool. And it kept me on time, too, because we had a really tight
turnaround,
right?
Yeah. Con games are the worst, because you really learn how to pace in a con game. You really do. It's so tough not to go. And we have to fear at the end, because that's always an awful feeling, even if you're playing at a con game. But yeah, cons are where you learn your time, but the time mechanic using a stopwatch is a great idea. I always allow them a little bit longer than the task actually requires. Like I've used it twice, and one of them was an hour and one of them was half an hour, and I always gave them like an extra 10%-ish on top, because then that allows them to do like the out of character talking, where they go, I actually have this knowledge of how medicine works. I'm going to give it to you, the person who actually would know how the medicine works. So we do that and always allow that little bit longer for him. But at the end of it, it's like, if you don't do it, you're all dead. So end of the game, really.
Yeah,
they made it. That's where they taunted death, and it was hilarious.
We did that a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, on the stream, and chat loved it because there's a countdown visible. We had to solve the problem in time, else everything was going wrong. They're like 3 minutes, 2 minutes. And everyone's like, "Fuck!" It's great. How much is a good amount of time to set? I mean, you figure how long? Yeah, it depends on the trap, really. 10 minutes, half an hour, something around that. Something pacey. Depends how quick you want them to get through it, really. If you want them to get it done in 10 minutes, then give them 10 minutes. If you want them to get it done in half an hour, you want to buy some more time for yourself, then...
Yeah, it depends. Do you want tension or drama, right? I mean, if you're going for quick tension, oh my god, we have to do it quickly, right? And just spill out an answer, and any answer is better than done, right? Yeah. Like the trap room that's filling full of water, right? That's supposed to be immediate. You're all going to drown. Here's a 5-minute stopwatch. But if you're going on something, you like it's your B story. We have the rest of the session, but also here's a Rubik's Cube, and if you guys solve it in 4 hours on the stopwatch, then Rumesh does not come and eat your souls, just in addition to all the other things you guys need to do. So it depends what you're going for.
Yeah, I think someone in there was saying about it's like you don't actually need to have the timer there, you can actually just say it, but I think sometimes it definitely adds something. I mean, I have this real aversion to ticking clocks, so when I hear a ticking clock, it really amps my just really annoys the hell out of me. Just makes it really tense. So that is a great way of building time. But the thing I could probably recommend with if you're doing time is give them a little bit longer, but don't overuse it. Don't use it every time, because otherwise you lose the tension the same way. Like that piece of music which is really tense the first, second, the third time you heard it, it's like saying Marshmallow over and over and over and over again. Loses all its meaning, so it's just pointless. So use it very sparingly.
Yeah, there's a horror game that uses Jenga as one of its systems. The more you remove, the more tense it gets. And it actually adds in a ton of tension to games. So I like the idea of adding in like fun mechanics. Fun mechanics to games at the table for your players to enjoy, or Roll20, wherever. As long as it's fun. What I tend not to care too much about is adding like mechanics to the game on top of everything else. Like let's now have mining mechanics, and if you mine 20 times and you get this ore, stuff like that. If it's fun, then sure. I mean, that's kind of the rule of thumb, right?
Our podcast slogan is, if you're having fun, you're doing it right. Every group's going to decide whatever's fun at their table, but certainly at my table, mining is not fun.
Right. Exactly.
For us it's shopping, so I bypass that as much as I can. I can't stand it. I just can't. I will. I only when we hit the end of an arc where they need to like get their supplies and all these things back. That's where most of my random characters come from. Is that? But I generally, in the middle of doing like the main quest, it's like I don't want to spend an hour shopping because that's going to take so much time.
Right.
It's so boring. And at the end of an arc when you're stocking up and you're getting everything and you're preparing like you would do in D&D, like you're preparing to get all your spells and all your equipment, or if you're like an artificer or whatever, a builder or whatever, then do that at the end. Don't do it in the middle of a campaign because my god, it's so boring. So we skip over shopping. I can't do it. 3 hours of shopping was literally an entire session for us, and I was like, I have to do something else. I can't do this.
I hear you. Okay, so Lurbon asked, I was reading somewhere earlier about DMs setting ability checks for things that don't need those ability checks. Example, I want to see if the dead body is anyone we know. Then DM, roll an acrobatics check. What do you think about doing this? Do you do it yourselves? I'd like to think I don't ask you to roll acrobatics checks when I identify things.
Is the body in a really hard to reach place?
Right,
that's what I was thinking. Is it up a wall somewhere? Do you
I gotta get him down.
And then I'd be like, you have to climb up the wall, therefore take an acrobatics check. That would be my logical reasoning for that, but I don't know. It sounds like you're taking the piss.
Imagine me having you on, mate. Or it might be that I don't quite understand when to roll ability checks or what they're meant to be used for. But I'd like to think that I only ask for ability checks that make sense. And I think an ability check only needs to be rolled, or a skill check needs to be rolled when it's something that couldn't obviously be identified. So maybe you'd have to roll an investigation or perception check to see. Because the body's been so mutilated that you can't tell if it's, your friend or whatever.
Or if it's somebody that you're just a real passing acquaintance, right? I would have to take a perception check to recognize most of the people I knew in high school.
Sure.
It's been a while.
Yeah, agreed. So that kind of stuff makes sense. But asking for acrobatics checks when you try and identify a body sounds like a no. Ask them why. I guess if it is that questionable, which in my opinion it is quite questionable. If I ask them why would I be rolling an acrobatics check for that, and if they can justify it, that the body is up a ravine, you've got to jump up there to get it down. Sure enough, they're the DM, But most things, if they're justifiable, then you got to do them. But if it's like, I don't know, roll an acrobatics check, and it's like, well. Okay, I guess I will.
I think actually, because we've just started that interesting discussion in chat about acrobatics and athletics.
That is not an interesting discussion. That is the opposite of an interesting discussion.
It is, because we play with some people like categorically climbing a wall is athletics. It's the only way you're going to climb a wall. Is like, but you can parkour up it. You can burn, and that's acrobatics. So I always get that question whenever I say it's an acrobatics or it's athletics. Everyone's always going to say, "Can I have the other?" I'm like, I don't give a monkeys climb the wall, whatever way you want.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Describe it to me.
I tell people,
I
often tell people if I'm not sure exactly what it should be, then I'll give them a choice of two. You could roll a survival or nature check. You roll an acrobatics or athletics, something like that.
If I'm not sure and I want them to have a degree of failure, I'll ask them to justify a roll for me. Mm-hmm. So you can have someone justify like a charisma check to like, seduce the woman, or you can have strength if they particularly think that this woman may be after, you know, muscles or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I will allow that because that kind of makes sense.
You're
So-
following the fate system. Or like fate accelerate, right? You're like, you know, what approach do you want to use to get this information?
Yeah.
You want to get the suspect to talk. Do you threaten them? Do you bribe them? Do you convince them? Do you befriend them? Do you jump over them and that convinces them for some reason? If you can justify it. then-
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And-
And the
and-
jumping over a thing, it would have to be a nat 20. I'm gonna have to go out on that one.
and by making you describe it to the rest of the players, does that make the game a more fun experience for all of us? Then make your roll.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But here's
Especially if it is ridiculous and they jump and then they crit, and you think, yeah, okay,
Yep.
do that.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Well,
We'll all
here's a-
remember that forever.
Here's another point about like natural 20s, and this is of course depending on your game, depending on the seriousness of it. But you know, if a player says, "I want to convince this guy that you know I'm not a criminal, therefore I'm going to use my, I don't know, my thieves' tools," and then he rolls a nat 20 on the thieves' tools. And you're like, sure, roll it, dude. He rolls a nat 20. Does that equal success? Or, good.
I think it does because you let them roll. Mm-hmm. If there's no possibility for success or no chance of failure, the job of the DM is to not let them roll.
It's interesting. See, I've seen it DM'd two different ways, where where players have been allowed to roll and they're rolling that 20, and DM's like, "You're a fucking idiot." No, of course that doesn't work. You fool.
Yeah, that kind of works on us because in theory, nat 20s only apply to attack rolls. So you can fall back and say
That's true,
this is an ability check. You actually got just 20 plus your proficiency plus whatever your
DC's
skills are.
85.
I mean,
come on.
yeah, DC is 40, dude. You're never going to freaking hit that with an actual 20.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're playing in a world where nat 20s actually equate to something in ability checks, which
I think most people
do.
play, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because
Most
it's
of us
way more
play.
fun. You've got a
Yeah.
nat 20, of course. It's same as if you get natural 1 on
awesome.
ability check. Technically not a failure, but of course it's a failure. You break your thieves' tools, of course you're going to fail it. It's way more fun. If you're going to do crit and botches, do that with it. It'll do it for everything. But yeah, I agree. You don't let the roll on thieves' tools to persuade someone that you're not a criminal, and then you crit on your thieves' tools persuade they're not a criminal. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
I think allowing a roll where there's either no possibility of success, no possibility of failure, is just wasting everyone's time.
Yeah.
The die
Yeah,
roll
yeah,
should be like an instantaneous, like a micro moment of suspense where everyone has that collective tension of, is this going to work, and then we get it resolved. If there's no tension, then there's no point.
So here's a counterpoint. It could be a success, but it doesn't count as a critical success because it doesn't make sense. Do you still allow it to, you know, wow, of course, you suddenly blind this guy with your thieves' tools? Or is it, okay, well, you've made progress towards that. It's still a success, but a kind of muted success. Almost if you're playing in a game with degrees of success, which I know a lot of people enjoy, like the Warhammer fantasy game systems, Dark Heresy, and that lot. They have a lot of degrees of success. Do you count it as a muted degree of success? Or is it, wow, nat 20 equals nat 20? You know, you've managed to do it somehow. Particularly if you're playing a story which, you know, maybe is a bit more serious, or in a group which, you know, it doesn't make that much sense, but it could, you know, have some kind of positive impact upon him. And I think, depending on the game, I might end up doing that. You know, I think sometimes nat 20 is nat 20, whilst it can be fun, can also, you know, it doesn't always necessarily equal a critical success in that same regard as if I rolled a persuasion check on that, it would equal a critical success, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah,
just playing
I know
devil's
what you
advocate
mean.
here, but I
Also,
think
yeah, if you follow the rule of cool with that, and you know it kind of, you're playing in a not serious world, fine, then yes, your thieves' tools convincing that you're not actually a thief, you're a locksmith or something. You know, I don't know. You know, you can go along those rules if you wish, but yeah, if you're playing in a slightly more serious world, then perhaps they wouldn't have suggested that in the first place.
maybe.
And if they are, then maybe you want to consider that. Okay, well maybe they do. Me as a DM, if I've allowed you to roll and I've gone, okay, you know, if I've allowed you to roll, then there is a chance that this will work.
Yeah.
Okay, you've rolled a nat 20. How am I as a DM going to get around this? This is going to push me as a DM to answer that, and I don't not welcome those. I just I dread them. They're there. I dread them, but they happen. But you have to get around it. It's a part of improv. So if you allow them to roll, then there has to be a degree of success in there somewhere.
This Rich is saying it. Yeah, a nat 20 doesn't let you change reality. I think
No,
that's
exactly.
That's the point I'm kind of making. I think it's, you know, it doesn't. Yes, automatically everything is fantastic, but yeah, maybe something gets changed as a positive reaction that you weren't expecting to the thieves' tools for whatever reason. Oh, actually, I love
He
thieves' tools.
doesn't immediately arrest you for
Right.
revealing that you were a thief.
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
seems like an advantage.
Exactly right. But yeah, I see Nat 20's played a bunch of different ways, but yeah, I always think it's interesting to see how different DMs handle those. Yeah, it lets you not get chained by a Legard, absolutely. Fantastic. All right then, so let's see. Oh, we're out of our list of questions. Fantastic. We're at the 2 hours mark, so Scott, we don't want to keep you around for any longer, my friend, because you're a busy guy. You're welcome to stay, of course, if you can. But it's what time is it over there? Oh my god.
Yeah, it's 6 p.m. about dinner time, so I will sign off. But
Fantastic.
I've appreciated the opportunity to interact, and I always enjoy bringing new people into the hobby, talking to new
Absolutely.
DMs, potential DMs. That's the mission of the podcast, and also a big tickler for me. So thanks very much
Fantastic.
for inviting me on.
Fantastic, Scott. Where can we find you online, my man?
Yeah, that's therpgacademy.com, or I'm at GOWTF. The podcast is at the RPG Academy, and our Monday night Twitch show, Dungeons and Dragons Special Visions Unit, or Lawful and Orderly Special Visions Unit is at DND SVU. That's DND SVU.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Scott. Would love to have you back anytime, my man. And
Thank you very much.
we'll see you soon.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much for coming.
Yeah,
It's been
mate.
very interesting chatting to you, man.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Cheers.
Fantastic. All right, then, we're going to reset up these cameras here. So we've got a question, Volanda, whilst I'm doing this. Here's a question from a fairly new DM. What's the general rule of thumb for story points? How much interaction from the player should I allow? Or maybe how stern should I be with a request from an NPC?
Ooh,
How's your
Wow,
father?
that's a pretty hard question. Rule of thumb for story points: how much should the interaction should you allow? As much as they want to get in there. I mean,
Get in there.
If they want to interact with your story point, they want to change it massively, want to do something, then that's them getting involved. And no way should that ever be like muted down and go, no, you can't do this. But if your plot point, your story point is revolved around an NPC or a chain of events, then sometimes those events will happen. It'll be up to you to react to the players. The whole DM thing, although we are the world, we aren't. We're not world. I think we were saying it like the other week or something. It's like it's not our story. If it's our story, go write a book because there's no interaction. It's a collaborative group thing. So if it's like it has to happen X, Y, Z, then sure, have it happen X, Y, Z. But if they want to change it so it's A, B, C, then roll with it. If they can make a big change in your plot point in your story, it's like okay, it's gone. Move on to something else. Make something else happen around the end of it. Like I think my favorite example is you have an NPC who's the villain. He's the big villain. They meet him, and the first thing they do is smite his ass down, and he's dead. Crap, that's my main villain for the entire campaign.
Right.
Have him work for someone else.
I like
Easy
it.
fix.
Yeah. I think as well, interaction is something that the whole group needs to decide upon. But if it's the case where there isn't limited interaction, it's all about platform. If you're the kind of person you don't want any interaction with the players at all, in the sense of their story, well then write a fucking novel.
Yeah.
It's the same with should I stream on Twitch or should I be a YouTuber? Do you want live interaction with people? Then stream on Twitch or stream on YouTube, but let's be honest, stream on Twitch. Or
Always
do
stream
I?
on Twitch.
Yeah, let's be real. I'm gonna be a fucking hipster. It's a similar regard to that. Exactly how much do you want? It's the platform you find it. If D&D is the place for you, then you want to be having interaction to players. That's the exact perfect place for it. It's where the game thrives. So, how much do you allow? Yeah, how much they want. Ask them. How much do you want them to have as well? How much do you feel comfortable with your game? Some dungeon masters want more. Some dungeon masters want less. And that's fine as long as the group are in on it together.
Yeah, exactly. It's a group story. It's not an individual one. So.
Yeah. No love for Hitbox, man. Hitbox are cute. They send me an email every now and again asking me if I want to come over there. I'm like, sorry, guys. Sorry, guys. I have an umbrella on my chair. I do, yes, I do currently. There's a gentleman behind me. How stern should I be with a request from an NPC? It depends on the tone of the game. It depends on the motivations for that NPC. Does the NPC really need it to be done? In which case they might be stern. Is that what their character is like? Then sure, maybe they might be stern of that request. It depends all on the situations that the game is in,
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a character that can be, for example, they want something particular to happen. Let's go for an example, right? So they want them to pick up a power core from a spaceship or something. that becomes very important to them as a person later on. So they'll be like, you must do this, you must do this, I'm your boss, you will do this, if not I will fire you or kill you. You know, you can be that stern with it. Or perhaps you have someone else like, could you get me a cryopod? And like, okay, if you don't get it, it's not the end of the world. Again, all absolutely depends on context. If they find a unique way of going around it, then fine, reward them, because it means they've thought outside the box and they're invested. So go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, let's see what B said there in response. Thanks, I was asking because my players are coming up to a very powerful magic use and I haven't been entirely sure how to do an interaction with that. I tell you what, buddy, listen to the latest episode of Adventurers Anonymous. That is exactly how we handled 25. That. Episode 25 is exactly when it happened, the most recent episode. Also, if you guys are enjoying this show, hit that follow button and join us. We're just 2 followers away from our goal for today of 30 followers. It'd be great to hit that. Let's see what Louise has to say. I've been in a campaign before a while ago where we had a big problem with backseat DMing. Oh, bro. It's not good. Exactly, Salami. How would you deal with someone like that, especially if the DM prefers to hand wave on rules for the sake of story, and the player is very adamant on the rules and keeps reminding the DM about what should be happening in a quote-unquote right way? It made things get very aggro between the two of them. Man, I can fucking agree. It's like having a backseat driver. It's fucking annoying. It's like having people trying to backseat, roleplay in chat. Like, it can be annoying when if I've had it where players get whispered all the time by people in chat who are like, do this, do this, do this. It's annoying. Obviously that doesn't happen very regularly, but occasionally that kind of stuff happens in games, and often when people are being douchebags, they might not necessarily know that what they're doing is being douchebaggy. So let them know what they're doing is wrong and why it's wrong and annoying for the rest of the group as well as the dungeon master in particular, and hopefully they stop. That's basically all you can really hope for, is when you bring problems to the attention of the people who are the problem, that they deal with that and then move on. Otherwise, what can you do? Well, don't play with them, basically.
Yeah, if they sit off the dick dial, just don't play with them.
Yes, the dick dial must always be avoided.
Unless that's how you like the setting.
It's true.
I mean, that's quite a difficult one. I mean, we have people who are like, that's not how things would happen in reality. It's like, well, this is how it's happening in this reality.
Well, you know what, buddy? We're not in fucking reality right now.
No, which is really hard when you're running games in reality.
Right. Okay.
You have things like because as I say, our group is some very very intellectual people here, and they know a lot of stuff about a lot of things. So when I go to describe a gun, I'm like, I don't have a bloody clue. I don't care about guns.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how that gun will work. It's like,
technically,
it's a big gun. Okay, it's a really big gun, and it shoots things. So yeah, I get that a lot because they're very smart and they like to be right. So yeah, you just sometimes have to roll with it. This is how it is in this particular world.
Yeah,
you can agree with them, change, but not fuck them.
I've been pitched the idea of playing in modern games so many times. I can't be. I'm just not inspired by that idea. I don't know why. I just find that would be such a problem with me. Like, what is reality? And then well, I'm not playing D&D so I can live a fucking reality. Like, I hate that. Reality sucks.
I mean, we started playing a game recently, actually. We tried to do like a magic in a modern setting, and the first thing everyone did was go to their phone. Man, yeah, this sucks. Why would you ever bother with this kind of setting? So for me, modern day is not where I'm at. For me, it's like futuristic. So the world has blown up and things are very, very different. But it gives people like a frame of reference to how of how it works, but not like exactly. This is Earth right now. This is how it is, because you would just pick up your phone and Google half the scrap. So it'd be like, it's a waste of my time. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I'm uninspired by modern day. I just can't.
Yeah.
I can walk out that door there and go modern day if I really want to, and I will roleplay someone who gives a crap, but I don't want to do that. I want to roleplay some fun.
Shouldn't you also consider verisimilitude? I don't know, man. I just, that could be interesting. Like, you've got, I can get behind the idea of like there are dragons and fantasy seeps into the real world. I could get behind that a bit more than I could than actually just playing in a modern setting. I think. I don't know.
I think I'd have to set it because we are actually moving our setting back to like 1940s, so we don't have that instant access to everything, because a lot of it takes player agency away. If you set it in the modern day, it's like, oh gosh, there are a bunch of people there with guns and like big magic things. Like, we'll call the police. They have a SWAT team.
Right, yeah.
we literally did that because we were trying to see how we could break the setting that we'd written, and that was one of the very first things to do. It's like, there's a bunch of people in, they've got a bunch of magic, they've got a bunch of guns and a bunch of hostages. Like, the police have SWAT teams to deal with this shit. Why am I, as a random
Right.
18-year-old girl with a very small grasp of magic, going to go in there against like 8 men with guns? That's
Right.
going to happen. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it takes a lot of player agency away, and that's why I don't particularly like modern.
I love a
Sit
I love a
back.
good historical though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love a good. I did a. We play Call of Cthulhu, and that's just that period set is quite interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, modern. I don't know. Modern just doesn't interest me for whatever reason. It's just not too exciting for me. But yeah, well, more power to you if you enjoy it. I did an ancient Roman one, but that was with fantasy and monsters, and that was cool because that was like mythological. Yeah, I don't know. Setting is interesting, but yeah, definitely into the medieval European stuff most of all, and it's kind of area of history that I've always found particularly interesting as well.
It's a tale of heroes and maidens, dude. It's awesome. You
Yeah,
get to be a genuine hero. You get to genuinely go out and do stuff. For these days, that you're one of like 6 billion people. There are only like maybe 500 million people back then. So you did something. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
Also, people needed saving. We didn't have the police to turn up with a SWAT team and take them down.
Let's see. They do care about verisimilitude rule, and don't fool yourself. I mean, I don't give a shit about the term verisimilitude. Man. So I have been using another stream to run my D&D campaign, but I felt like I have to panelessly use this. I don't worry about screwing up their affiliate status. I mean, that's almost impossible. Is there a tutorial to help others on programs I need to do it myself? I've asked others, but I think they are scared that I'm going after less streamers. I do a Twitch channel, I can stream games, but I don't know how to set up for multiple cams. I'm just Rock20 showing stuff. Shoot me an email, contact@encounterroleplay.com. I always help out people. I get plenty of emails every month or so asking how do I set up multiple cameras, etc. The program you're looking to use is either XSplit or OBS. Personally, I found OBS to be a bit more reliable recently.
Yeah, I've been finding XSplit because that's the one you put me onto first time, and it's like that. It drops out so many times. I've only got 4 settings, and to be fair, my laptop's a bit. It's not really set up to have multiple cameras. It's not really what it's supposed to do. But if you have like a laptop or a PC or something, get yourself cameras that are USB, and then plug everything into XSplit or the other one that you mentioned, the O thing.
OBS, OBS Studio is the best
OBS.
one. That's what I'm using right now to stream. OBS Studio.
because they're really adaptive. You just open it up, and I went in there with no tutorials, and probably about 10 minutes later I had everything set up. So they're pretty easy to do. It's just decent software, like anything. Use the right tools, and the job is a lot easier. Yeah, probably XSplit is a good one to do, and then just place your cameras in good places. Don't take them to the walls, as I found out. There's like, you probably can't see it because you're in the wrong place. There it is. There's my camera. That's one of my cameras. Actually up on a bracket. The first time I had it there, I had it taped to the wall, and the first camera did really well. The second camera went in the middle of the recording. So you just see the back of one of my players' heads is completely bald. It was awful. So yeah, make sure everything's set up and test beforehand. Always test. If you can do a test stream, test that, play it back, and you can see all your audio and everything is set.
Yeah, I've got a separate channel where I run all my tests on, so no one sees them. So 13,000 people don't see my shitty test stream.
Yeah, same.
You can't figure out the overlay. The thing that you're looking for is to use a alpha PNG image, and also to do window capture on something like Zoom or Skype or whatever Hangout that you're using. That's the way to stream. But yeah, I don't.
Got a second screen that really helps.
Second
running
monitor's
everything
really
off of a single screen, and it's a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, I did it for about a year. It's actually more doable than a lot of people give it credit for, but it is much easier to do it too. It's, something to Will's chess channel. But yeah, there's almost no way to screw up someone's affiliate status. Affiliate status is you need like 3 concurrent viewers, and you need to stream, I don't know, 7 days out of the past 30 or something like that. Twitch allows you to do test streams that don't actually go live. It's interesting.
They do.
No, I don't know what it used to is necessarily, but it could be useful. I mean, all it is a click for me, but there you go. But yeah, the idea of I don't know, this idea of like not helping people out that are asking for some help. The idea of like stealing viewers and stuff, by the way, is totally an urban myth. Like it's not real. Like, people don't. It doesn't work like that. But anyway,
No, It's like if we, because anyone streams will generally have like the VOD, they captures your recording and puts it on your VOD, or people upload it to YouTube, so people can consume it when they want. You don't have to be there live, so it's not like I'm going to steal this viewer, this podcast. That's it. So people who listen to AA, who listen to Taking the Initiative, screw those guys. You're our viewers. Fuck those guys. That's never going to happen. It's more like, hey, here's AA. Go listen to TI, or TI like, dude, go check out AA. I mean, that's the community feeling that we kind of get here, at least that I found in the RPG communities. Like everyone's in it together. There's no one like me against you or anything
it's platform systemic. It's like an impossibility for if. It's actually a really good thing. If someone else starts up another stream, maybe they bring in 10 different people who start watching the stream. Maybe there's 100 people, and there's 1,000 people. But guess what? There's spillover and bleed over and cross pollination. That's a really good thing for a streamer. So never feel like you're stepping on anyone's toes or anything. You're actually helping everyone else out by streaming, and we need more D&D streamers.
Absolutely. Always need more games to watch. Always need more people to play with.
Oh yeah, fucking green screen, man. I moved my sofa. So let's see. Can you take a character from one D&D game to another? Yeah, you can do.
It's the basis of Pathfinder.
Yeah, you can do. You don't have to. The bandwidth test flag allows you to broadcast without appearing on ITVS notifications. Oh, interesting. You can do. I'd ask my DM first. Before doing that, just let someone know that this is a character I played in the previous campaign. Be aware that you might not have all of the magic items and all of the things that you had accrued last time in the new game. Because, if you're starting out as a new campaign, generally I'll say, sure, you can play the character, but all the shit that you had before, well, sorry, buddy, that doesn't exist, because that was in a different universe, a different world. And it might not fit.
Timeline.
Different timeline, exactly, yeah. There's multiple timelines going on of your character that exist. In fact, there's 1 billion different universes in which you're playing D&D right now. So
I like to think that when I'm playing at a table with 8 of us, there are 8 different universes being streamed at once. Mm-hmm. Because everyone sees something slightly different.
Well, it's true. I don't like to think about that. That gives me a headache.
That's like the step back thing.
Whoa, bro. That's 420 time right there.
You might want to question why you want to take that character across and why you don't want to create a new one. I know that for me, I have characters that I'm very, very attached to, and I will always go back to Kesa in a heartbeat. She's my very first character, and I love her very, very much. But I always try and play someone who's different, because then you experience different things, and especially if you're heavy into your role playing, you learn different things from different characters. So I always try and play someone different. You might want to find out, you might want to work out why you want to play that same character again, and why you are hesitant to try and play a new one. New characters bring up new things, and I always encourage new things. But if you want to take a character from A to B, be aware that there will be some slight tweaks and changes.
Yeah, ask your dungeon master is the best thing. Can I take this character? Is it okay if I do this? Then ask them about the gear. Can I have the same gear? Can I, maybe there's some things you're allowed, some things you're not allowed. Just ask them basically, and see. Okay, so Bomber said, I have a homebrew setting I've been working on for a long while, but have been stuck on the deities for quite a while now. Is that something you usually go into, and how deep do you go, or do you use adapt already existing ones? If you're stuck on something, I'd move on to something else. First of all, if there's just like a roadblock going on there, if it's stopping you from writing. But yeah, I go into some detail with it. I don't necessarily impart all of that information onto the players the very first session, though. But I write within my means what is needed, basically, for the first session and second session and so on. So it might not come up for a long time. But yeah, I wouldn't go into excruciating detail. If you're having trouble with it, I'd base it on something else that you already know.
Yeah, I mean, the gods in the D&D handbook is pretty good, because they also adapt the existing gods from like Celtic and Norse and all that good jazz. So they've the Roman pantheon, all that good crap. So they've amalgamated all that in there, so it's possible to play with those. There's quite a lot of gods that actually exist in our world, our own mythology, that you can probably go in and take bits from, and it allows your players to then go, oh, I kind of know about that, pick that up and go roll with that. If they're playing a paladin or a cleric or even a warlock, because you can have light warlocks, and that intrigues me quite a lot, and I really want to play one of those. Get them to consider what they want their god to be, because then they can give you a big hint on what's happening with that particular deity. But if you find D&D to be a bit of a roadblock, give them names, give them some details, or simply just pick up and take from the back of the D&D handbook. Having gods that are mostly defined are good, especially if you're playing like religious type characters. Having gods which have a name and a single line of text, not so good. But especially if you're playing a religious type, because you can't go, what's their main, their main philosophy, how do they approach this, what's their culture, yada yada yada. If you don't have any of that and you're playing a faith character, that's if your players aren't playing that, then having names and a general idea of what they do is handy. But again, it just depends how deep your characters want to go with it.
Yeah, you could also look at, like you mentioned, gods in our own world. Historically, there's a shit ton of stuff going on there, so that's a whole wealth. I mean, when we did Imperator, which is set in ancient Rome, we just had a multitude of things to draw from, and that was a lot of fun. Egyptian gods, just a million of them, and tons of different directions you can go with it. So yeah, consider stealing stuff from real life, because it's all real when it's real life, right? Because gods are real in real life, man. So consider doing something like that maybe. But yeah, don't fascinate over too much detail. I think otherwise you'll trip yourself up, and you'll focus on that, and you'll be like, oh my god, why don't we have any gods? Why can't I play? Those kind of things. So.
Essentially, you want a name and what they're the god of, and basically, if you run alignments, what kind of alignments they are.
Sure.
Basically, whether they are an asshole or not an asshole is basically how you want to split them down.
Yeah.
So they're the god of fishing. Is the god of fishing an asshole? No, I think he's probably a pretty chill guy. You're gonna break it down like that.
He fucks up them fish though, man.
Yeah, he's his best mate is like marijuana god. And they sit together getting high and fishing. And those guys are not assholes. Those guys are pretty chill. So yeah, you're going to break it down to the basics, but if your characters want to delve more, then write more.
Yeah.
You don't need to have to if you don't need to.
Absolutely, yeah. If they're asking for more stuff about it, then you can write that as you go, as the campaign develops.
Yeah.
Adventurers Anonymous, we don't know too much about the gods right now. It's something which is developing more and more as the campaign is explored. So that's always fun, getting to explore the game, the players explore it as well as their characters, rather than information dump at the beginning, forget everything, and then start to remember stuff as you go along, which is generally what I do when I'm playing.
I kind of really liked our really short intro into the world of here's some really basic things, and as we're discovering them, the listeners are discovering them, so it's not a case of, we know this thing, and this is clearly the obvious thing because we know it, we've read the handbook. It's like, no, we're all discovering it together, and I think that's kind of fun.
I like how we've done it. The kind of mythology I'd like to go with, if my players are the audience, the players uncover it as I'm uncovering it, maybe I know I'm a step or two ahead of them, but we're also kind of learning as we play, and so it's almost like the characters learning it as the players learning it, and that's always really cool. Alright, good night from the Download household. See you guys soon. There we go. Thank you, MS Paint Clock. 30th follow today. There we go. Bam. Nailed it.
Nice.
Nailed it.
Good job.
Fantastic stuff. I think there's a lot of ways you can go with the gods of your universe. You don't have to you've got 18 major gods and some demigods. You're sorted, man. You're golden right now. You
have more gods than they will ever come across. Unless your paladin is switching between all 18 different gods because he keeps breaking his vows.
Right.
You're probably going to be alright.
It's interesting, isn't it? Depending on the party, it almost doesn't matter what the gods are exactly. It depends on the player as well. How interested are the players going to be in the pantheon of the world? It's possible that they don't give a shit. When I'm a player, oftentimes I find myself not giving a shit about gods. Similarly to how in real life I'm pretty apathetic when it comes to religious stuff. It's like, you fucking do you, man. You go for it. But do I care about researching theology? Fuck no, I don't. It's so when I'm playing a game, do I want to continue to look into things that I kind of find boring in real life? Fuck no, I don't. So ask yourself, how important is it? Is it more important that you have a full list of all the gods and the deities and exactly what they do, or is it more important that you have the races in your world fleshed out, the general governmental structures of your world filled out? Usually the gods come last. So for me at least.
And if you've got 18 with names, you're probably onto a pretty good one. If you do have a cleric or a paladin and you are hitting the roadblock of exactly what this god is entailed, get them to write it, because it's their god. They'll be more interested in it that way as well. They'll be more involved in it. They'll feel like they're in part of the world. Also, lazy DM.
Hey, yeah, how can I find a game? Exclamation point, find games. Get my video for all your 9 or 10 or so methods for to finding a Dungeons and Dragons game. It's a pretty common question, so we got it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spend 6 months searching ancient pantheons to create your own pantheon. I don't know, you know, how necessary that is, but if you get
If that's what you're into,
if that's
then
what you're
go
into,
ahead and
man.
do it, man.
if that's your kink. Kind of kink
Yeah, I
shaming,
mean,
yeah.
you can be exactly what they do to write like entire languages for races and characters that never get played. I mean,
You could be Tolkien, man. You could be that guy.
I've written entire languages for random races and stuff, and I've never played them, probably never going to. So.
Yeah, I love myself
fun.
too much to.
It was
to
fun. It was
bother.
mostly like it's basically a form of beatboxing. Was this particular race? So it was kind of fun.
Okay, interesting. But yeah, you know, that's a thing we were talking about earlier on in terms of writing a campaign. You know, write within your means, write how much you actually feel like you need. And Mike Shea from Sly Flourish the other week, he was saying the same thing. You know, he sees so many people falling down that trap of writing too much and then being upset because he's never seen. You know, you could be the guy who say, you know, you could be the one who writes the most fantastic novel and all of the players care, you know, about the world and explore every inch of it. You could be the 1%. You never know. But most likely is that you're in it with the rest of us, and that we struggle, and so we only need to write as much as we need. Hey, Giga, how's it going?
They're always going to ask something that you were never prep. They're
Right.
always.
All
I
the
mean,
time.
I think I might have said this the other day. The plan never survives contact with the players. So you can't prepare for everything, and there's no point attempting to. Write the things you genuinely think you're going to need. I genuinely think I'm going to need to know how big this trap is going to be. I genuinely need to know how many armed guards there are here.
Sure.
I mean, to be fair, you can fudge that number if you really have to, but you know, it's,
Yeah.
write the things that are really important, and then everything else.
Write
if
down
you
your
rub it,
list.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like on a shopping list. You put all the most important things at the top, and then I don't know. Do you do that?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't. I don't do that. But hey, maybe people do that. I don't know. I'm not a real person. But yeah, Riceball also makes a real point. You know, don't be afraid to write lore that won't be touched as well. That's true. I mean, you can. I mean, the thing is as well. You know, all the times that it's like, oh no, they've gone the wrong way. Often you can be brought back. You can bring the party back to the correct point. And we talked about this before. If an encounter is meant to happen in location A and they go to location B, well, fuck it. You know, it's now in location B. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. And they're none the wiser. It's like we were saying earlier. You know, they don't have the script. If they had the script, then they'd know that you messed something around, but it doesn't matter because the audience don't know. The audience will never know exactly what the script is. Maybe after the game you're like, yeah, this thing was meant to be here.
Again, I'm
never
kind of getting into the habit of avoiding doing that because I used to do that a lot, especially my very first campaign. I was like, I had this thing written, if you went here, then this would happen. It's like, damn it, that was really cool. I could use that later on, and now I can't because I've told them that's what would happen.
Sure.
As an alternate, so yeah, I now kind of stopped doing that because especially when we finish streaming on a Friday, they always ask loads of questions like, how did this happen? Where did this happen? Where did that? It's like, I have to actually stop them asking that now because I'm like, I want to talk about it. Of course I want to talk about it. I'm passionate about the world. I'm DMing this thing. This is things that are really important to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. But it's like, I have to get them to stop asking that because I will answer them and ruin stuff. And
I mean, yeah, welcome to my world, man. Adventures Anonymous, I talk about it all the fucking time, but, you know, I don't say anything about it. You know, I would tell little bits to players. Little bits audience.
I talk about it, but I don't actually talk about it.
Yeah.
What I mean. Yeah.
Nothing you'd love more. You know, the reason I actually stopped doing that is because I, as a player, had a DM tell me that something that was really cool that we ended up doing was like totally not planned, and it actually felt to me for some reason less valuable.
Yeah.
And as a player, I was like, oh, well, okay, that was still cool, but I felt like it would have been cooler if I didn't know. And so as a player, I actually preferred not knowing. And so I've stopped telling my players that, yeah, this thing was meant to be here, but now it's, you know, totally gone the wrong way. But hey, you know, that actually tends to. There's more mystique and mystery and more value I found in not knowing that my DM has switched something around. I like the not knowing. It's fun.
Unless I mean, because I said I have the tell of doing that. I can't help it. I just do it. It's something I'm trying not to. But you know, sometimes they do throw something at you, and you can't hide the fact they've completely just gone either completely the wrong way or they'd done something you completely didn't expect. I had a character that was supposed to be killed off in session 0. We did the session 0 and then we did a very like mini prelude.
Sure.
And I had a character that was going to stay with the Earth as it basically got destroyed. She didn't want to move on. But 3 of them managed to crit, getting her to come with them. So I'm like, I'm now stuck with this character on the other side of the universe and I have no idea what to do with her. And that was blatantly obvious across the face. Sometimes you can't hide that stuff. In that case, yes. Go ahead and tell them that was never meant to be. I did. I was very blatantly honest about that. She's supposed to die. That's how she's
It can be fun.
And you take it in. Yeah. And they now know that I have to struggle getting through that. For them, that's something they laugh about and mock me quite a lot for.
Yeah.
So that's unless you either can't hide it or it will never ever come up again.
Yeah, sure.
Then I don't share anything. Again, I'm the same with you. When someone tells me this is what should have happened, I'm like, oh, well, that kind of alright, fair enough. Depending on the reveal, of course.
Yeah. What's up, Kaylin? Haven't played D&D since childhood, but glad Sony Fixes Day player. Oh yeah, man. There's a whole army of us playing.
It's exploding.
You were drinking Lucozade, correct?
I was indeed.
There you go. That's the question. So, in a campaign's little flavour...
in chat.
Yeah, I thought he was downstairs as well. In my campaign, is a little flavour. I have special guests come in to play the bad guys that are important. I have done this once, but is this something that could hurt the campaign as it isn't the DM controlling the game? Again, episode 25 of Adventurers Anonymous, our weekly Dungeons & Dragons podcast. You can find it on iTunes and other shittier platforms, or about as shit as iTunes. You can find there. Yeah, I had this happen recently where Josh, Encounter Josh, you guys might be familiar with him, came and played one of the villains of the game. Now, I didn't just say, hey Josh...
Villain? Will?
Well, no, that's not a spoiler. I mean, in your guys'
haven't decided if he's
in your guys' mind, when you came to the session, he was definitely going to be a villain. So...
it was a question mark.
Sure.
Now he's a villain in my mind.
So yeah, killer bad guys are important. Yeah. So I had Josh do the exact same thing. However, I didn't say, hey Josh, come play this guy, and he just turns up and plays. I gave him a dossier. It was about six to 8 pages long, information that Josh would need to play this character. I gave him all the information he needed, all of the information about the campaign, all the information about the characters, all the information that he could possibly want, and more about this character. And that's when I felt happy to kind of like hands off it, and it was easy.
And we still asked things which you still had to get him information for, which was quite funny. I think that was probably the most edited episode Neil has done, because there were so many pauses that he had to cut in and out of, and so much of us goofing around whilst we were waiting for you to chat.
Yeah.
Hence the ridiculous amount of bloopers at the end of the episode. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I was watching your face for quite a lot of it, and you sometimes had that nervous look of, oh my god, and sometimes you're like, oh, I don't have to do a damn thing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Lazy GM's guide then.
You never have to like fully hands off it, because you're always ready to just dive in and whisper Josh and say yeah or no, or this is the answer, or this is a possibility that you might be thinking about right now, I enjoy D&D games to be unscripted. Personally, perhaps ideas of bosses, not too data choices. Oh, that's interesting. Obviously for the podcast, we produce it quite heavily, so and I think that works particularly well.
Yeah, I think we can get away with it on a podcast. I don't know how I'd feel about having a guest voice an NPC. I don't know, or to play an NPC.
Oh, I think it's actually awesome. I've loved it in games. Yeah, no, I've loved it when someone's come in to play a character that is, particularly good at doing voices or particularly interested in playing. Yeah, I love it, man. It's super cool.
Josh was good. Josh was so good.
Yeah, it's
massive heart to that guy.
It's a lot of fun. How fully should you develop NPCs? Good question. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these questions are about as much as you need them to be developed for the story and for the session that you're about to play. If they're super important, I work more on them. If they're more likely to be, sideline characters or less important NPCs, then I'll work less on them. That's generally my rule of thumb for writing characters.
Yeah, I mean, if you enjoy writing massive characters, great,
sure.
Do it, because you can always pick up and play them in another place, or you can actually play them as a PC later on if you really like them. I think prepare as much as you think you're going to need for them. If they're going to be like Jeff the Guard, then probably don't need to worry about Jeff the Guard unless you struggle with name, in which case write a bunch of names out and then he can be Steve the Guard. Or if he's going to be a very important character, then write more for him. Or if your characters end up getting attached to them, then give them more of a backstory. more of an idea, because then they could be a fully fleshed character rather than just, you never know who they're going to get themselves attached to. So start off light, and then if they get more intense to them, write more. That's pretty much, just write as much as you need, but if you enjoy writing, then write more.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, really, with most of these things. How much do you want them to be developed? Some characters become more interesting than you realize that they're going to be, and therefore you write more for them as that happens.
Yeah.
So that happens a lot. So I'd run a campaign for almost a full year, which was basically all villain NPCs. It transcended Murder Hobo to become something awesome. Players have been asking me to do it again. Have you ever done something like that? And how did you maintain them together? It was a bit like herding cats for me. Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem. I've done one-shots of it, but only for laughs, really. Never a serious campaign have I attempted everyone to play an evil villain, or, villainous characters are quite easy to do with, more so if they're just like roguelikes. You're basically playing a game like Blades in the Dark in that case. But if they're all playing like evil characters, we're all the bad guys.
For anything, yeah.
That can be difficult.
I mean, the only play where we played villainous characters, I think, was Dark Sun. We played a homebrew game in that, and that was kind of, it wasn't we were evil, but we still, I think the campaign was structured so it'd be the same as if we were heroes. So
okay.
There was still a big bad to overcome. There were the Sorcerer Kings, which we had to overcome. So although we approached everything in a whole awful evil way, we still actually had to get on with people to find out where the big Sorcerer King is so we could kill him and then become the Sorcerer Kings and Queens ourselves. So for us, I think the guy, one of the hard was running it, he ran it in a really good way. He ran it as if we were good PCs, but we approached everything in an awful way. To be fair, he's great at improvising on the fly, and when he realised that we were going to be already ambiguous, he just adapted and went with it, so it was pretty good at that. Other than that, I don't tend to play like evil campaigns. I tend to do morally ambiguous. Because I personally also the same. I friggin' hate alignment. I think it's great for if you've never roleplayed before and you need a bit of a guide on how to play, and that's fair enough. Everyone's got to start somewhere. The guides in the backgrounds, all that good stuff, they're there to help you and guide you along. But if you want to go out and do something yourself, fine. And I think alignment's just one of those things that is really personally.
I think the thing with, if you're playing with all villainous PCs or whatever, it comes down to the same baselines, as they need to have motivations to be doing the things that they're doing.
Yeah.
And also, evil doesn't mean stupid, and villainous doesn't mean you're an evil bastard all the time. So define what that word means in your game. Does evil mean, aha, I am a James Bond villain, now let me tell you my plan, Mr. Bond? Or does it mean, someone who is subversive and clever and intelligent, but also does things for the wrong reasons, or, terrible things? I mean, define exactly what the group is going to be about. Is it going to be about, let's go down the village and murder everyone? In which case, fine, but make sure that that's the game that you're ready to play. Otherwise, you're going to feel like, well, this isn't exactly what I want. This is trying to herd cats, trying to get them to do an adventure, There's still, evil doesn't mean psychotic murder, exactly. And also make sure that when they do the bad things, there are consequences in the world for doing the bad things. Being a bad guy is not easy in games, and it shouldn't be. Being a bad guy, bad guys get caught in games. Yeah, I mean, but basically,
what kind of evil campaign you're running? If you're
true,
a villain
but
and you win, then you win.
Yeah, true, but then basically, systems aren't in play. If the world is a place where evil reigns supreme and everyone's evil, well then sure. But if the world is a place which is generally ruled by civilization, then it's a hell of a lot easier to be a nice, hard-working person than it is to be an evil person. There are consequences. There are guard systems in place. There are mages that hunt you down to try and kill you. Think of all the things that would go wrong if you make a decision to, burn down a village, kill people, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of got that agency there if you're playing in a civilized world in which, the town guys can turn up and, kick the shit out of you or throw you to jail, and that will basically, effectively, that's a threat you can keep using. As a villainous character, I mean, you kind of have to make sure the world is set up for it, and to be fair, if you've managed to run a game for a year with villains, you're doing really well. We only ever run those as one-shots, and that's a case of, shit, not everyone is here, I don't want to finish the main campaign right now because, the important character isn't here for this or whatever, their plot point is coming up. Then I run it as a one-shot, I can't.
Yeah, it's just important everyone's on the same page of that game and really on the same page, more so than normal. adventure, I think. Kitty Kit Kat asks, not related to D&D, but do you compose the music for Adventures Anonymous, or is it just like public domain music? Do you include music during live play to set the mood? The music is composed for the most part by Neil, who plays Emery on the podcast.
I actually always had this question from my group of dudes, and they were like, what do you want about Neil does music? Neil, we need to shout out to this, because apparently nobody knows that Neil does all the music for us, like, at all. I've had like 3 of my groups come and say, you say Neil does music? Yeah, he does all of it. What do you mean he does all of it? He does all of it, apart from ones where he says, I didn't do this bit of music. He's literally saying, I'm doing it except this bit. So I think when we record next, we need to shout that out hard, because people don't realise how hard Neil works on our show.
Yeah, absolutely. Neil does most of the music, and then the rest of it comes from mostly our friends over at BattleBards, who do some stuff. I do play music during the live streams. They are all from... majority from tabletopaudio.com and the soundpad on tabletopaudio.com, which is the greatest tool ever invented for a D&D streamer. But yeah, also around a table, we'll play on a fantasy soundtrack at the very least. We'll play the Game of Thrones soundtrack or the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, something that we all like.
If you want like a royalty-free music, in Computech.com, Kevin MacLeod, you'll find him everywhere.
Oh yeah,
anywhere. Everyone uses him.
Yeah.
He's so good, so good. I know that Taking Initiative use him, and if you go on to the NASA Live, they also use Computech music.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it's really rad.
Yep. Cool. So that is that. But yeah, Evolve campaigns are not so easy. Music, Tabletop Audio is the best place to find easily clickable music for any and all situations in every campaign. If you guys don't use it, then y'all are fools for not knowing about this tool, because I recently found out about it maybe half a year ago, and it has been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, for home games, you can use pretty much whatever music.
Yeah, you got on, yeah.
Soundtracks from games are really good ones. Skyrim, and all that good jazz. They're really good settings, but if you are streaming, you have to be careful about what you stream. So, other than that, use everything. I mean, if Celine Dion is your thing, then use that. Yeah,
exactly. If you all are gonna get turned to Celine Dion or playing D&D, then fucking go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was like 10, I used to burn CDs, because back in the day we had to burn CDs. I burned CDs of video game soundtracks and stuff, and put it in like the CD player and played that at our sessions. And
do you ever do the thing where you took a PlayStation 1 game and put it in the CD player because it would just play the audio tracks? You could do that for.
I never had a PlayStation 1.
Lara Croft. I didn't either, but my nephews and nieces did, so I borrowed those. And yeah, you can put like Lara Croft in there and play that. It's amazing. So good. I recommend it. It's so good. But yeah, home games, play what you want. Otherwise, but make sure your music isn't too loud when you're doing it. It's gonna be really distracting. So just keep it on the low. Yeah.
It feels so old now. I want to see the campaign where Sure is totally inappropriate. I'd love to play D&D to like bizarre music and see how that affects the games. That would be fantastic. Man.
I think if there was an official band for AA, I think it's Radiohead. That's
okay,
what that entire
Radiohead are the greatest band ever created.
Yeah.
So what can I say?
I like their throwback website they did.
That is probably the best compliment that I've ever been given about Adventures Anonymous. So there we go.
Well, I keep noticing you're slipping the titles in.
What can I say? The man's a fan. To burn CDs too, yeah. I also had a thing on like the telly. I think it was an Xbox I had. I think it was the old Xbox, and you could play music on it. If you put a CD on it, and you could skip to the different tracks. And I used to do that from my table, and that was quite cool. Yeah. At the time, that was pretty high tech, if I do say so myself. I had a big controller, and I pointed at a telly, and it every now and again it would do something when I clicked on it. But
and until we started streaming, we never actually used music like ever.
Oh man, that's so
mainly
good.
because our lot talk way too much. It hasn't been till like the last 2 years that they've actually settled down and actually started playing the game, which we thought music would be really good. But we never used music until we started streaming at all.
Yeah,
It does add something, but you do need to keep an eye on it, make sure it's not too loud. And having inappropriate music at the wrong moment is so bad. Like having High Peril when they're laughing their ass off is not quite the same.
Yeah, true, very true. If you guys have any other questions, fire them our way, my friends, and we shall get them. If you're enjoying the show, hit that follow button and join us. Yes, Benny Hill theme whenever Expeditious Retreat is cast.
Yeah.
I love it. That would be great. Now I'm trying
the
to.
other direction.
Yeah, I'm thinking of different pieces of music to set to D&D games. When they enter the tavern, Glorious plays. Da, 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 da. Fantastic, yeah. I'm
For me,
loving
it's
it.
always Cantina when they enter any bar.
Da, da,
Play
da,
that
da, da,
same
da,
song.
da. Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Play the song again.
Yeah, exactly. Play that same song.
I like it. Oh man. Yeah, is it the Colville video? Let me see. Still has his PS1 working. What a legend. Man, I can't do that. Now you have to put the song on. I've used it in the past actually for a
Nice.
section. There we go.
I'm sad because I can't hear
Don't be.
it. It's so good.
Oh dude, here we go. Sirenscape, yeah, Sirenscape is also a good one. I haven't really looked into that before, but they've reached out in the past trying to get me to use their thing on my stream, so maybe I will
Yeah,
at some point.
they use them on like Dice Stormers. That's where I first heard about using sounds for your games, and they're really good. I mean, they just have like this massive catalog, and it's very, very good. I don't know if it's subscription based or any of that jazz. I've actually not listened to it myself, but hearing the sounds coming off it are really good. They're definitely a good place to go check out.
Yeah. There really shouldn't ever be a time when a DM does know what a player's allowing, in my opinion. Oh, we will never play D&D together, my friend.
No.
That will never happen. Have
Sorry.
you ever had a situation where you had the feeling like putting on the A-Team theme song? Plenty of times. Times. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. When you
Quite
start
often.
creating your homebrew campaign, into how much detail do you go about the world creation and overarching story before starting session 01? That's a good question. I don't know really. I mean, I need to have as much as I feel confident with, really, is usually the question there. As much as I feel ready to begin a session 0 or session 1, session 0 is usually so much easier to start as well because you can begin to write part of the world with the players and start writing for them there. So yeah, I need to have a good idea of where our universe is set, and pretty much from there, I can do a session 0, and then a little bit more, and I'll be ready for a session 1, really.
Yeah, I think for me, I like to know the universe is setting because obviously that's going to friggin' help. And I only know whenever I start like a major campaign, before I do session 0, I only ever know the vague gist of my campaign. I will know it's roughly going to start here, and I think it's going to end here.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the villains. I know very little about the organizations. I know very little about gods, if there are any, which often there aren't in my games because screw that. And I know some characters, maybe, possibly, but I will pretty much always brew that with the group. I mean, I have the session 0, which tends to be the hand-holding, literally creating your character. You know, like how like you be in like Fallout or like, Fallout's probably a good example.
Yeah.
Where you literally go in and make your character, and they do this, and they learn this, and they get that, and that, and then you leave the vault or you leave the prison or whatever. I tend to do that as a like encapsulated area so that I can figure out what my players want. And as long as I can cover that session, I'm pretty much good. Once they have that, I will probably spend the next week, which is what I have between sessions generally, figuring out a general overline, and then the next arc where I think, okay, this is cool, let's go with this. This one's this thing. And then as I go, the arc gets filled out more and more as I go along, and the same with the campaign. It's like, okay, I introduce this character on the fly, this will become more of a thing, and I basically pull the strings until they actually make like a scarf, and then that's it. That'll be the whole campaign.
Yeah.
So I just do it as I go generally.
Yeah, I'm quite similar in that regard. Did I write the characters' backstories feature in the first 2 episodes? No, and a little bit yes. So in the first 2 episodes of Adventures Anonymous, they wrote. I asked them to write backstories. So I took the backstories and I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, we got some nice backstories. Xanath's backstory is like, I lived a happy life and I was an elf in a library and it was good. And I was like, well, that's fucking boring. That's not gonna happen. So I took the backstories as inspiration and then fucked with them, basically.
Yeah, you put a nice twist on there. I thought I was doing okay having slaughtered an entire village. By accident. Well, no, not by accident. She knew what she was doing. She knew she was killing an entire village full of people. However, knowing before she started they were a village of entirely innocent people, that kind of that threw me. And then throwing a friend at me as well. I'm like, you dick. You utter dick. I knew this guy for all of like 20 minutes.
But I love him.
When he died.
Yeah.
I love Roderick so much. He's so cool. He was in my life all of 20 minutes, and my heart was breaking when you slaughtered him. You dick.
Oh man.
And
then everyone cried,
Yeah, well, I had a few tears. I had to wipe a few away, but other than that, was like, oh, I hate you so much, Will. This is going to be so fun.
Yeah.
It was when you opened your mouth and did Brandis's voice.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the name of the fella.
Yeah, Brandis Hammerfell.
Yeah, Brandis Hammerfell. And so I thought, oh, what the fuck is this going to be? And then you did that. I'm like, I know exactly what this campaign's going to be like. This is going to be awful, but it's going to be so fun.
Oh man, makes me think my homebrew is close to being playable. And I thought, yeah, basically, I was talking about this earlier. You ask yourself the question: do I want to play D&D soon? In which case, then let's go with what we have. You know, shall we do this thing and then run with it? And that's basically where I found it to draw a line where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of ready to play now. Like I want to play a game now.
Yeah, I'm always like that. I mean, the Friday sessions, I wasn't supposed to be DMing like at all. I was supposed to be just playing and letting someone else take up the hard work, but I did all the background stuff. Ended up he's not being able to do that, so I've now had to do it. I'm just like, I need to play, but AA isn't frequent enough.
Yeah.
Like getting the itch so bad.
What can I say? But yeah, looks like we've gone through a ton of questions from you guys today. So we're gonna be diving off, and we're gonna head over to our friend. We're gonna roast? Not gonna roast. We're gonna raid and host our friend Random Tuesday. She's cosplaying. She's making a cosplay outfit. She's doing some chainmail right now, which is pretty fucking cool. So yeah, we're gonna head off for today, but we'll be back on tomorrow. Tomorrow at 1 p.m. EDT is Beginners Play Dungeons and Dragons. Very exciting for that. At 4 p.m. EDT, we've got Mutant Year Zero episode 2, which is going to be episode 3. In fact, we're going to go roast them, which is also very exciting as well. So yeah, come back tomorrow if you enjoyed the show. Hit that follow button and join us. Thank you so much for enjoying the cast today from Encounter Roleplay. Vlonda, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AA_Unola, UNOLA, as you can see on the screen. You can find the AA podcast coming out tomorrow. Woo! In an hour's time, you can find me on Not So Speedy Runs Twitch.
Not So Speed Runs. That's his name.
Not So Speed Runs, yeah. We're doing that in like an hour.
Nice.
That's for 4 hours. Tuesday, you will find me on Skagos channel because we're playing Lord of the Rings. And Friday, you'll find me on my channel on Twitch /Bloodthirsty Puppets.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Also, thanks so much to Scott Brown from the RPG Academy. You can find him on Twitter at GOWTF. You can follow him there. Fantastic stuff. I'll be posting a document online on the website for you guys to read. Fear not, my friends, fear not. But yeah, we're going to go do a host and a raid, or roast, hashtag encounter raid, and let's spam an SM orc after that as well. We'll go over to her channel. We're going to spam that around, say hi, say some love from us, and yeah, we'll see you guys over there. But until next time, everybody, try not to roll too many net ones, because we want to be here laughing when you do. Good night, everybody, and farewell.
Bye!
Bye!